This is Xiaoming, and he has the most broken power of the apocalypse. He can hire zombies to kill other zombies. He hired 2 hotties to be his bodyguards. At first you might think they're just 2 fragile women, but when they stand in front of a zombie horde, they wipe out everyone in seconds. He only uses them to save energy, because he's also super strong. On one of their birthdays, the guy crossed an entire horde with a cake in one hand and a sword in the other, threw the cake in the air, cut down everything in front of him, caught the cake before it hit the ground, and even set off fireworks across the whole street. All that just so she could blow out the candle. And don't think he only hunts zombies. One day he took a hunter job, and found out the guy who hired him was part of a gang that locked up women and kids in a building to use as toys. They tied people upside down for the zombies to eat and stomped on the women's faces. The guy pointed his gun at one of them and offered the other one to Xiaoming to keep him quiet. The MC just laughed in his face. In minutes the hideout turned into a hunt, with thugs running to one side and finding a zombie waiting on the other. The guy with glasses tried to catch him off guard, but the MC was alert and turned fast, grabbed the guy by the face and slammed him into the ground. He said guys like that don't even deserve to be called human, and finished him off with a knife. The gang leader hopped in an armored truck with a machine gun and started shooting all over the yard. The kid ripped the armored door off with one hand, leaving the guy terrified, begging and offering everything he had, but he forgot that forgiveness is God's job, not Xiaoming's. The boss's head got crushed with his own bare hands. The craziest part of all this is that this guy wasn't always like that. Before the apocalypse, Xiaoming was a depressed businessman whose company got stolen by his own friends. He jumped off a building to escape that pain and be free. Then out of nowhere he starts hearing the sound of rain. Sitting up, he wonders why he couldn't finish it. Still stunned, he remembers jumping from such a tall building, and asks if he's really so useless he couldn't even die. Then he sees his hands are hurt, even though there are no clear wounds. A groan comes from beside him. He looks over and sees something he never could have imagined. Shocked, he gets up and sees a man reaching toward him. The man is clearly a zombie, groaning as he crawls closer to grab him. The boy screams, spins around, and runs for his life. As he runs, he wonders if that was really a zombie, and how that's even possible. For a second, he even thinks this might be the afterlife. But that can't be right. He can feel the rain, his heartbeat, the pain, his breathing. If his brain is processing all that, then he's still alive. When he reaches a busier street, he finds several zombies blocking the way. They're everywhere. He only stayed home for a month, and now he's left wondering what happened to the world. Suddenly, a boy runs toward him, begging for help. But halfway there, the kid trips and screams in panic. Frozen in fear, he realizes the zombies are really eating people. He turns and runs again, knowing this isn't the time to stand there in shock or he'll die next. As he keeps running through the storm, he spots a girl surrounded by zombies. Then he notices something strange. This zombie girl isn't moving like the others. She's just standing there. A second later, she lets out a sharp scream. Then she bursts forward at terrifying speed, charging straight at Cal. Caught off guard, he wonders how she noticed him from that far away. She rushes past as he barely jumps aside to avoid her attack. The zombie girl keeps going and rounds the corner, expecting to find him there. But she stops and looks around, confused. He isn't where she thought. That's when he realizes normal zombies aren't actually that slow, but this one is way faster than the rest. Staring in shock with a weird smile, he mutters that he's definitely dead now. Then loud pounding starts at the door behind him, and he wonders why he's even scared anymore. Still, he takes off running, knowing that door won't last long. It's almost funny, he just tried to kill himself, and now he's terrified of dying. When another creature comes around the corner, he asks himself why he's suddenly so desperate to live when zombies are right behind him. He nearly crashes into 2 more by the stairs before sprinting up them. Behind him, the zombie girl finally smashes through the door with a kick. He tells himself the fastest way out would be to let them catch him, but then it hits him. Jumping by choice and getting eaten alive are nothing alike, and his body knows it. As he keeps climbing, he runs into 2 more zombies and wonders if this is really what he wanted. Then he remembers confronting his friend Guanzhong, asking how his best friend could do this to him. Smiling, Guanzhong says he doesn't understand basic common sense, so ending up like this is no surprise. His former friend goes even further, saying someone useless with no value should be treated like trash and thrown away. In another memory, he begs for a loan, but the girl says his score is too low, and she can't help him. He tried to leave that world behind on his own, but after seeing what things are really like now, he changes his mind and kicks a zombie away, yelling at it not to touch him. Now more than ever, he wants to live as he charges up the stairs. He pushes past countless creatures, shouting for them to move. Still running, he yells that he refuses to die there. With a grin, he says that even if he just tried to leave this world, he's changed his mind. If dying won't end his pain, then he's not giving up anymore. Then the zombie girl finally catches him and stares with pure hatred in her eyes. She leaps at him from behind, furious, and he thinks that if he's going to destroy that bastard Aang, he has to survive first. Right then, a system message appears and activates. The zombie misses, slamming into the wall beside his head instead. He stares at her hand, completely confused. The system announces that subject T Xiaoming has been redirected. The first task has been assigned, and an eligible candidate has been found. He still doesn't get it, and wonders if the employee he's supposed to hire is the one standing in front of him. Then, the system asks whether he wants to accept the employee, and at the same time, he remembers all the zombies outside. So he raises his hand and says that in a moment like this, he really has no other choice. Then he brings his hand down fast and hits the button to accept. At once, the zombie girl wraps her arms around herself like she's hugging her own body. She screams, and tears start forming in her eyes. The system shows a red screen confirming the employee activation succeeded. Then a young woman in a dress, her body marked with scars, looks at the boy. He admits he still has no idea what's happening, but says he already has her first job. All he asks is for her to wipe out the zombies around them. The incredibly fast girl steps in front of him and instantly drops down with an attack aimed at the zombie below the stairs. Her hit lands clean, and the zombie crashes face first to the floor. Then she grabs his arm and swings it behind her, smashing another zombie right in the face. Seeing more closing in, she lowers herself and gets ready. Then she spreads into a full split and strikes 2 zombies at once. She drops, recovers at once, and sets up her next move. With a jump, she rushes back up the stairs past Cow. The zombies barely react before she's already on top of them. She slams both with a cross strike, sending each one flying to opposite sides of the stairway. All Cow can do is stand there and watch in awe at her power. He quickly decides that in this world, she might be the greatest employee possible. At last, he lets out a breath and says it's over. Soon after, the system congratulates him for finishing the mission and lists his rewards. He gets a backpack, 100 points, and 1 lottery chance, which makes him really happy. He stops, crouches, and opens the backpack. Inside are clothes, food, water, and even weapons. He pauses, looks at the system screen, and wonders what this system is and what it wants from him. Still, with the world ending, he's not even that shocked by a so-called system anymore, so he decides to check the lottery. He presses the big green lottery button, and the system says his ticket has been activated. A giant roulette wheel appears, and the system says the draw is spinning. It explains that the prize is random, and then the wheel finally stops on a space near the lower right. The system congratulates him. He's won a memory fragment of Hu Xiao, and he has no idea what that means. The memory fragment appears, and he asks the system what it's supposed to do. With a smile, he compares it to the kind of item drop you'd get in a game. Staring at the fragment, he wonders how to use it. The moment he touches it, it starts glowing brightly. Then he's pulled straight into the memory fragment. Still confused and squinting with one eye, he asks what just happened. He seems to be inside a real estate company called Shengxi, with a girl at the front desk. Then a man walks up from behind. The man doesn't notice him at all and passes right through him. He reaches a desk and calls the girl Xiao Yu, and she asks if he needs anything else. That's when he realizes he's inside Xiao Yu's memory, which is why nobody can see him. Xiao Yu's boss tells her she's doing great for a new employee, but the company isn't doing well right now. She just smiles and says it's okay. She came to the city alone from the countryside with little education, so she's thankful to have this job. Her boss looks ashamed as she agrees to take only half her pay for now. He promises the rest once the company recovers. She happily thanks him again. He tells her to keep up the good work. Meanwhile, the boy watches quietly from the side. Xiao Yu looks down and picks up a hair clip. After putting it on, she checks herself and says it's really pretty. She bought it with her first paycheck. She says that ever since leaving that house, she promised herself she'd live happily no matter how hard life got. Taking a breath, she says with a smile that one day she'll have a home of her own. He smiles at her and says she's got a really positive attitude. A moment later, he's back where he started and asks if the memory is over already. Then, the system gives him a side mission. Go back to the real estate office and find the girl's hair clip. Seeing the reward and the job, he starts wondering what an employee's loyalty even means. He grins at the girl and says that after seeing her handle those creatures, he's leaving them to her. They just need to hurry and finish the mission. After a while, the boy and the girl change clothes and reach the real estate company. The girl is already wearing her new outfit. She keeps kicking zombies in the right tower. The boy, also changed, is still amazed by the zombie girl's fighting power. He just watches as she sends zombies flying and feels lucky to have her as his employee. Heading upstairs, he decides that while she handles the zombies, he'll find her ribbon fast. By the desk next to the computer, he finally spots the girl's ribbon. He turns with the ribbon to share the good news, but then a zombie suddenly flies over him. Startled, he yells and wonders if she's trying to scare him to death or crush him with a zombie. Then he realizes she doesn't care who's nearby when she fights. She's throwing zombies everywhere. Even in all that chaos, she suddenly stops and looks right at him. Not sure what that look means, he stares back. The system gently tells him her loyalty is very low, so she might mistake friends for enemies. He panics when she looks at him like fresh zombie meat and wonders if this is what loyalty is for. He sprints for a door, complaining about this terrible game design, while the girl chases him. He gets inside, slams it shut, and yells that this is the second time she's come after him. This time, he says there's no system to cut the damage, so he drags a cabinet over to block the door. On the other side, the girl keeps hammering the door with non-stop force. He says he has to finish fast because the door won't survive her blows much longer. He already found the ribbon. Now he just needs the other half of her pay. When he finally looks behind him, he nearly jumps out of his skin. Her boss is there as a zombie, still counting money. Shaken, he wonders if this is really the same boss from the memory. Then it hits him. The guy lied to the girl about the company being broke. Looking at the zombie boss, he says the man reminds him of the friend who took everything from him. Even dead, he's still obsessed with money. He drifts into thought, but the pounding on the door snaps him back. He walks up to the zombie and says he'll only take the 2,000 for Xiao Yu and leave the rest. But the second he touches the cash, the zombie grabs his arm. He freezes, not understanding what's going on. The zombie boss stops counting and stares at him with that blank undead face. He pulls out his knife and asks if the zombie really won't let go. The zombie boss suddenly gets mad and charges him. Even with his arm trapped, he jumps back and raises his knife to attack. Then he decides this is the perfect chance to test his new blade. One fast slash sends the zombie's arm flying, and he says the blade is seriously sharp. Turning back, he says the next hit will finish the zombie for good. But something knocks his blade clear across the room. He has no idea what happened as the zombie boss glares at him and starts screaming. A second later, the boss is on top of him, and he struggles hard to break free. The boss quickly drops his head, trying to bite him. The zombie falls, but its jaw slams into Kato's shoulder. Panicking, he wonders if this is where he ends up as zombie food. He forces himself to think, and remembers the zombie was obsessed with money. Maybe that's the answer. Reaching out, he manages to grab some bills nearby. He throws the money into the air, and shouts for the boss to look. Somehow it works and distracts the zombie. The boss rushes after the bills like they're about to disappear out the window. Cal sees right away that the trick worked. He bolts for his knife, grabs it, and charges, saying companies like this always make workers feel worthless. The zombie boss is still busy scooping up the bills from the floor. Only then does he seem to notice Cal coming. Cal says he won't stand for that, and brings the blade straight down. The hit lands clean, splitting the zombie into 2 pieces. As he waits for his knife, he says the company he builds will never treat workers that way. He promises he'll care for them like family. Back with the zombie girl, she stands still and stares ahead. She's still at her old workplace, now dressed in her new clothes. Morning light fills the city. Cal walks up behind her and says the ribbon was a little torn, but he did his best to fix it, so she shouldn't complain if it's not perfect. After placing the ribbon on her, he happily asks her to take a look. The zombie girl brings her hands in front of her and seems to think about it. Then she smiles softly. He seems to notice and blushes a little. Right after that, he says maybe he didn't see it clearly, and the zombie girl looks confused. They say this is the start of building a company in the apocalypse, and that he's going to find all of her memory fragments. As zombies fill the city, Cal says he was a failure, who lost his business and was ready to end it all before the zombie outbreak began. 5 days have passed since then, and he's spent all of them learning the system. Now he has new skills, like recruiting zombie employees and earning rewards from missions. If he uses them right, he can build a solid team fast. The zombie girl keeps smashing zombies with easy kicks, just like she has these past 5 days. Now the boy joins in too, cutting down zombies with his knife. He smiles and thinks he hasn't felt this alive in a long time, like he's slowly putting himself back together. Then he calls the system and asks for a new mission. It gives him one to gather supplies, and he likes the sound of that. Excited, he turns back and calls to the zombie girl, but she just stands there staring ahead, so Cal asks if she's okay. As she walks over, he wonders why she's acting even stranger than usual today. Still, he drops the thought and says they might as well go shopping for free in the middle of the apocalypse. Soon they enter a store packed with zombies. The zombie girl does what she does best and starts kicking them away. While she handles the zombies, he searches for food and enjoys being able to look around in peace thanks to Xiao Yu. Then 2 zombies try to get close, but she easily sends both flying. Still, he notices her kicks seem weaker today than before. One of the last zombies crashes into a shelf and knocks food onto the floor, accidentally helping him. When he kneels to pick it up, he sees canned Sonhoi lunch meat. Smiling, he thinks he owes that lucky find to the zombie girl's amazing kick. Cal calls out to her, but she doesn't answer. She stays frozen in the middle of the store. When he calls again, she finally turns, and he notices something is wrong. He quickly heads toward her and asks what happened, but then a zombie grabs his foot. That's when he realizes the zombie she kicked wasn't fully dead. Then more start coming, and he sees none of the zombies she beat were actually finished off. He quickly grabs the zombie girl's hand and asks the system what's going on. Why is she suffering this much? The system explains that she entered a hungry state, which sharply lowered her performance. Chow asks what he can do to feed her. While they run, the system says he can trade points for employee food, and he tells it to do it right away. He pulls his knife and starts cutting through zombies as the system says her meal will be ready in 30 minutes. Soon, Chow is surrounded, with the zombie girl behind him. Looking around, he wonders when this many zombies got in. He tries to come up with a plan while the girl trembles behind him. Then he wonders if this is where he's going to die. Suddenly, he hears someone calling him toward a door. A girl motions for him to follow her through it. He grits his teeth, unsure what to do. Holding the girl's hand, knife in his other hand, he runs forward and yells for the zombies not to block his way. Facing one head-on, Chow shouts, "Can't it see his employee is starving?" He throws himself at the zombie and says he's in a hurry. He keeps running, pushing the zombie forward on the tip of his knife until they make it through. The door shuts right after he gets through. As Chow starts to rise, he thanks the girl and says he'd have been in real trouble without her help. Then he sees a knife pressed to his neck. The girl behind him says he doesn't need to thank her so fast. Then someone else tells him to hand over the food he just gathered. He looks up and sees more survivors around him, all aiming melee weapons his way. The girl tells him to hand over the food, saying she doesn't want this to get violent. Cao knows he's in a bad spot until Xiao Yu gets her strength back. The others press him to give it up now, or they'll take it by force. Eden smiles and says he'll hand the food over. He pulls out a can of beans and shows them. Two men dig in and start eating like they're starving. Cao tells them to slow down since there's enough to share. The girl apologizes for how they're acting. They searched the warehouse, found nothing, and haven't eaten for 2 or 3 days. She says they weren't always like this, but everything changed after the zombies showed up. Cao can't believe they'd rather starve than risk going outside for food, even with monsters roaming around. Then another man steps up and demands all his food and water too. Cao says that's asking for too much. Someone behind him argues that since he was so generous, he must have more, and giving up a little extra won't kill him. He gets to his feet and calls them out. They're too scared to fight zombies, but not too scared to gang up on one person just like them. A man comes up behind him and tells the big guy to start searching him. The girl tries to stop them, saying he already gave them food and they don't need to go this far. Wong snaps back that a little girl like her knows nothing. The world's already finished. With a cruel grin, he says if you don't steal now, someone else will steal from you. Chow acts like he's giving in and tells them to take what they want. The men start digging through his stuff while the zombie girl just stands there, frozen. Then a sound comes from the ventilation duct above her. Something inside starts forcing its way out. As the men move in to search him, Chow realizes that if they take his weapon, he's done. Once they tie him up, he says there's a can of meat strapped to his leg. The men stare at him, shocked, asking if they heard that right. A second later, they all demand to know why he didn't say that sooner. Everyone wants that hidden meat, and each of them has their own idea about what to do with it. Seeing his chance, he says whoever wants it can go get it, then throws the can far away. The can lands a good distance behind them. At once, they forget about him and rush after the meat. The skinny guy in front, drooling as he runs, boasts that those chubby guys can't beat him to it. He grabs the can, grinning and still drooling. One of the others groans that now he sees the downside of being fat. The can was only one shelf farther. Then the can suddenly drops to the floor. A man asks where the skinny guy went, but the woman doesn't care. She just wants the meat. The girl tells Auntie Chao to calm down. A moment later, a man yells for Xiao Yuzheng to run, while the aunt lies on the floor staring at something ahead. Then he begs her to save him. The girl can only stare at them in shock, too stunned to understand what's happening. At the same time, Kevin notices the rope around him is tied really tight. The girl and the uncle come running back, and he wonders why they return so fast. She unties him and tells him to run. The zombie girl suddenly picks up a strange scent in the air. When he asks what happened, the girl trembles and says Ong was eaten. Chow asks if a zombie got her, but the girl says no. She starts to explain, but something suddenly slams into the wall above them. The zombie girl stares ahead at a thing covered in eyes and giant teeth. A squid-like monster with a huge mouth and countless eyes appears in front of them. He can't tell if it's a monster or some kind of mutant zombie. A man runs for his life as the creature chases him with its mouth wide open. Its jaws snap shut around him, leaving only his hands sticking out. Chao Zhang and Chow watch in shock, while the uncle heads for the door behind them. At the door, the uncle panics. He refuses to die there and just wants out. Seeing what he's about to do, Chow warns him not to open it. The second he cracks the door, a face is already waiting outside with its mouth open, ready to bite. Of course, he gets bitten, and Chow thinks these people are unbelievably foolish. The open door lets zombies start pouring in. Chow pulls his knife and fights, thinking the octopus creature isn't as strong as his Xiao Yu, but he still needs to stall for time. The system alerts him that the task has been marked dangerous. The monster starts moving toward them. He Zhao Jing hides behind the zombie girl, who stays as blank as ever. Chow calls out his employee's name. As he turns, a zombie tries to rush him. He stops it just in time, but now he really thinks this could be the end. Then the system says the mission is dangerous for the host, and activates collaborative work mode. It adds that Go Xiaoyu has now entered that mode too. The girl's scars seem to peel away from her body, and start wrapping around him instead. Seeing those scars spread across his body, he wonders what this collaborative mode even does. the system begins explaining it to him. Before it can finish, a zombie charges in, then takes a lightning-fast punch and goes flying. Another zombie gets dangerously close to Tao Jiang, who screams in panic. He leaps over and slashes the zombie across the back with his knife. Spotting yet another zombie, he tells the system it probably doesn't need to keep explaining. What just happened already told him plenty. As he cuts through zombie after zombie, he asks if his abilities are now equal to his employees. The system says it's more exact to say their attribute values are synced. A zombie sneaks up behind him, but its head suddenly caves in when the zombie girl smashes it with a club. Then she shows up chewing, food still in her hands. Tiao sees her and asks if she's powered back up. He says things will be way easier with her help, and he's glad she recovered in time. Looking at the octopus, he says the two of them can finish it off now. Together, they charge at the monster. It lashes out with its tentacles, but they're too quick and dodge them with ease. As they close in, Chow calls to the zombie girl, spots an opening, and tells her to end it. A moment later, the monster is covered in holes and deep cuts. A boy watching says they're insanely strong and thanks heaven he didn't fight them. Later, he says they finally made it out. The mission is done and they're full. Xiaoming runs after him and asks him to wait. She says that by themselves, she and Chow probably won't survive. He answers that Sei is already strong in a fight. She tries to ask for something, but Sei cuts her off before she can finish. No, he tells her there's food, water and weapons back there, enough to last for a while. Helping them was already payment for letting him hide there. Then he makes it clear he won't team up with people who pulled a knife on him. With that, he turns away and leaves, wishing them luck. Later on, he remembers he still hasn't used the task lottery reward, and opens the system window. He presses the button to start the draw. A giant roulette wheel spins up in front of him. He waits eagerly to see what reward he'll get. Then Cao freezes, wondering if this is a joke when he sees what he won. It's just a loaf of bread and a cup of coffee. He knows he hasn't had that kind of meal in forever, but it still feels like a total waste of a lottery ticket. The zombie girl, still blank-faced, seems to drool a little at Cao's snack. He notices her staring hard at the food, moves it aside to test her, and her eyes follow it right away. So he gives her some, and even without changing her expression, she's clearly thrilled. The system says that feeding his employee her favorite breakfast raised her loyalty and unlocked a skill slot. Smiling at her, he says that if she ever wants something to eat again, she should tell him, he'll get it for sure. Then the system tells him to choose one of 3 skills for the slot, but he grumbles that it'd be easier if he could try them first. The 3 skills are Violent God of War, Immortal God of War, and Furious God of War. After his complaint, the system says he can test them, but once the trial ends, he has to pick one. They head to a port near the last mission area. It's wide open and packed with zombies, so he says it's the perfect place to test the skills among the containers. Zombies wander between the containers, with no idea what's coming. Sitting on top of one, he tells the system he wants to test Furious God of War first. The zombie girl immediately dashes toward the horde. She stops short and starts charging power into her wrist. Then she throws a punch that blasts the zombies away. He's amazed that one punch sent all of them flying. That skill clearly boosts how well she can wipe out groups of zombies. Next, he asks the system to test Immortal God of War. Green energy wraps around the zombie girl, and she lets out a scream. Every zombie nearby suddenly notices her. He realizes she pulled all their attention onto herself and is drawing in their hatred. He also notices her scars glow green, and her wounds start healing. So the skill gives her regeneration, and also lets her provoke zombies, which he thinks is really cool. Cal then asks the system to test Violent God of War next. He takes off to find cover, telling her not to lose control like before. As the new skill kicks in, her hair whips upward, her eyes sharpen, even colder than usual. Then she rushes in and tears through everything in seconds, while he reads that her attack power jumps way up. The catch is a cooldown after it ends. After the burst finally fades, she stops, red energy still pouring off her body. A moment later, she plants off a container and leaps at the zombies. That's when the real damage shows. Zombies go flying as dust fills the air. One of them is launched toward a girl, and she catches it by the head mid-air. An instant later, power blasts from her hand where the zombie was. Cal and Xiao Yu both realize someone else is here, and Cal wonders who she is. It's a girl dressed in black, with horns and spikes jutting from her elbows. Seeing those spikes, the boy asks if she's some kind of mutant zombie. Xiao Yu sprints across the containers straight at the zombie. She throws a kick, but the white-haired girl blocks it. Cal is shocked that even with Violent God of War boosting the hit, the other girl still stops it. While they trade blows, he realizes this zombie is unlike anything they've faced before. He also notices Violent God of War is wearing off, and if this drags on, they're done. So he turns on collaborative work mode and rushes in too. Cal tells her to pull back while the mode activates. The two of them break into a run. They're trying to get away from the new zombie. Glancing back, he mutters that the thing is seriously fast. As he runs, he spots figures ahead blocking the path and pulls out his knife. Then he realizes it's not zombies at all, but a boy, who sees the knife and screams for him not to kill him. Cal stops short and asks if he's alive. Without waiting, he grabs the boy and drags him along as the kid asks who he is and begs him to stop pulling. Even while hauling him, the boy tells him to calm down and not panic. Then the white-haired zombie girl catches up. The same boy who said not to panic immediately freaks out and points at her, yelling that she's a mutant zombie. Cal sarcastically asks if he still wants everyone to stay calm and stop running, and the other boy curses and tells him to keep going. Still running, our boy says she may be a mutant, but she's still a zombie, so there has to be some way to beat her. He suddenly cuts into an alley and tells the boy to follow. Of course, it turns out to be a dead end. The mutant zombie closes in from behind. Cal faces her, and the fight starts up again. He knows his zombie girl can't win against the white-haired mutant, so he has to come up with something fast. Then he catches a strange smell in the air and tries to place it. He turns to the other boy and tells him to hand over his backpack. The boy starts taking it off, asking why. Cal says there's no time. If he wants to live, give him the backpack now. The boy hands it over. Our boy swings the backpack around and tells Xiaoyu to get back. Then he hurls it above the mutant zombie. She slices the backpack in half, with ease. Gasoline spills out over the white-haired zombie, along with everything else inside. In the next second, Cal warns them to watch out as he throws a lit lighter at her. He celebrates before it even lands, and then the whole area goes up in flames. But even that doesn't stop her. The white-haired zombie walks right out of the fire toward them. Cal tells the other boy not to freeze and to move. They manage to get away, and Cal says it feels good to still be alive, while thanking the chubby guy for carrying a backpack full of flammable stuff. The chubby guy is already freaking out, thinking they escaped, but now what the heck is he supposed to tell the others? Then the system gives him a new mission. The chubby guy keeps whining that Big Sis Meng is going to feed him to the zombies. Then his eyes light up, and he asks the boy if he wants to hire him. After that, we hear that zombie numbers are going up, and lately people have been moving in and out of their area. We then see the two people talking. One points something out, and the other says he sees it too. A moment later, Cow drops down and attacks a zombie, while the chubby guy watches from above. Next we cut to a shelter with people inside. Cow walks in saying he made it, with the chubby guy rushing in right behind him. The system says the mission is complete. He thinks all he got was points, and asks about the lottery ticket, but the system says he can trade 100 points for one anytime. Suddenly, people surround them with weapons and demand to know who they are. The chubby guy quickly tells them not to attack, and introduces himself as Dajo. Another man asks who the other two are. Dajo explains he got into trouble while trying to get fuel, and they saved him, so he brought them to meet the leader. The man says the leader is on the roof, and that Lao Li will take them up. Cal says he didn't expect a place this clean during a zombie apocalypse, and the other man explains it was an unopened hospital, so it's still in good shape. As Cal says their camp is well organized, the chubby guy looks terrified while climbing the stairs. Lao Li says that's because their leader keeps everything under control. He adds that she gives everyone jobs and keeps the place running. After they explain they brought two newcomers, they're allowed through to the rooftop. On the roof, a woman holding a baseball bat tells someone not to just dodge zombies, hit them back. Three boys stand in front of tied-up zombies and admit it's their first real fight. The woman shouts that they won't get a second chance, so they need to think straight. Then she asks about zombie traits. One boy answers that zombies fear light and slow down in the morning, or under strong light. Another adds that they're also sensitive to sound. Swinging her bat, the woman says rule number 3 is to destroy them. The boys nervously say they understand. A man calls her captain and says Dajo is back, and she immediately asks if he got the ton fuel. Dajo steps in and stammers that he didn't get it. The captain asks how he dared come back empty-handed. Without fuel, they can't power the bright lights, and the new recruits can't do night training. She glares at him and reminds him he promised 3 times, and she gave him 3 chances. Then she explodes, calls him useless trash, and orders him out of the camp by nightfall. Pointing her bat at the other two, she says they don't need more people brought in by that boy, and tells them to leave too. Cab tells her to relax and not rush to throw people out. Then he says they came to make a deal. The captain asks if she heard that right, and starts laughing. She says her camp already has shelter, food, water, medicine, and fighters, everything people need. Then she looks at their tiny group and asks if they really think they can fool her. Suddenly, one rope holding the zombies snaps, and a barrel tips over. That lets 3 zombies loose, and they charge at them. The boys in training start screaming that the zombies got free, and now that the sun is down they're stronger. One of them cries out for the captain to help. Cow snaps his fingers and calls Xiao Yu Yu, and she slaps her hands together like she gets it. Then she locks onto the zombies and jumps in. Lao Li and Daozu stare in shock, wondering what the zombie girl is doing. Meanwhile, Cow says they need fuel, and he can help them get some. His price is simple. Let him and Daozu stay in the camp. The offer leaves everyone stunned, but our boy makes it clear. In a zombie apocalypse, friends and business aren't the same. Then, while Xiao Yu tears through the zombies, he adds that as long as there's profit in it, he'll be the most dependable ally they have. Later, with tall buildings around them, Cow asks if he really expects him to go to a shopping mall in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. He keeps complaining that there's no power, no water, and nothing useful there. The boy fires back that nobody forced him to take the job, so he should quit whining like an old man. The system shows an E-rank mission. Looking back a bit, the captain presents the client and says he's been with them since the start of the apocalypse. Cow says it sounds like a kid's mission and asks what exactly he has to do. The captain says he needs to go to the playground at Yuda Mall. Back in the present, our boy complains that if he wants to work with the camp, he has to put up with that brat for now. Then he notices a zombie charging from behind and tells the brat to stay close. Something suddenly slams into the zombie's head. The boy calls Cow an old man and says his name is Wang Ru. He explains he's not going to the mall to play. He's looking for his father. Chow can tell the kid trained well at the camp, but if his father is really in the mall, his odds of surviving are almost zero. Wang says he knows that, but he just wants to find out whether his father turned into a zombie or not. Then he looks at Chow and says if his father did become a zombie, he wants to kill him. That answer leaves the boy impressed. At that moment, the mission jumps from E rank to B rank. Somewhere in the past, a gloved hand seals an opening, then sets a small stuffed rabbit there. A little girl tells her parents it's amazing, and asks the bear in front of her to do it again. She asks why he likes making people happy so much, and her father takes off the bear head before answering. He points at the people around them, and says everyone has days that feel lonely, sad, or painful. Then he asks if cheering up even one person passing by could make their day a little better. The boy thinks he has to be joking, but his father says he's completely serious. To him, a smile is magic. Back in the present, Wang Ru tells Ta that if his father turned into a zombie, he could never forgive himself for letting him become a man-eating monster. Ta asks if that's really why he came, and Wang says yes, he has to do it himself. Our guy realizes something is off. They're already on the 3rd floor, but there isn't a single zombie in sight. He sweeps his flashlight ahead and mutters that he hopes this isn't a trap. Then a sound from up front makes him stop. A mutant zombie appears, mashed together from several bodies and a bumper car. The head near the front grips the steering wheel, mumbles something, and seems to spot them. Now it's clear, the whole mutant is shaped like a car. The driver turns the wheel, the zombie car swings toward them, and then lets out a horrible scream. That cry sets off several other zombies, and they start shrieking too. A second later, the whole pack rushes their group. Cow says it really was a zombie trap, and Wang blames the older guy for jinxing them the second he said that word. Our hero immediately calls for Xiao Yu. She braces for the fight, then launches herself at the horde. He realizes that's why nobody in camp wanted to bring the kid here. Xiao Yu drops right into the middle of the zombies, and pushes straight through them for the mutant. Once she's close enough, she winds up a heavy kick. Xiao Yu slams her kick into the zombie's bumper. It still stares ahead, hands on the wheel like it doesn't even get what happened. Then the bumper drops to the floor with a hard thud. The mutant shrieks in fury, and hurls the steering wheel at the wall ahead. The hit is so strong that part of the wall collapses and buries Xiao Yu. Xiao shouts for Xiao Yu, trying to spot her through the dust and broken chunks. Then he tells Wang Ru to go find somewhere safe and hide. But the kid just freezes, staring straight ahead. He points at a zombie in a bear suit walking toward him, and says that's his father. Wang remembers his dad in that costume, and then the truth hits. The bear suit is filthy and ripped apart. Cow calls to Wang and tells him they need to hide first, but the boy firmly says no. He tells Cow to take Xiao Yu and go. This is something he has to finish with his dad. Our hero starts to question him, but the kid cuts him off. Trust me, and remember your mission. Cow smiles and says he'll leave it to him. Then he starts climbing over the rubble. Still smiling, he admits he didn't expect that brat to be so tough. Right after that, another zombie lunges with its mouth wide open. It means nothing to Xiao Yu. She kicks it straight in the head. More zombies leap at her. She blocks a few, but they're clearly closing in from every side. One zombie grabs her hair and yanks hard. Buried in the mob, she starts to choke. Soon Xiao Yu vanishes under the swarm. Cow watches and yells for her to fight her way up. Suddenly zombies go flying everywhere, as Xiao Yu bursts up from the middle of them. She's panting with her fist raised. Cow asks if she forgot how to fight without the boss nearby. As he drops down to her, he tells her to take the fat one, while he handles the weaker zombies. Then Xiao Yu cries out and looks back. Our hero activates Violent God of War along with collaborative mode. Xiao Yu's scars transfer to him, and the two split up for their separate targets. Meanwhile, the brat walks alone with his flashlight, telling himself to stay calm. He's trained for this moment. He says that if his dad is still alive, he'll bring him home. If he's a zombie, he'll kill him. Because a man like his father would never forgive himself for becoming a human-eating monster. He keeps walking, and shaking, turns the corner. There he sees the torn, filthy bear costume. The kid takes a deep breath and says, "This is it." Then he runs at his target. On the way, a zombie on the floor grabs his foot and sends him crashing down as he blurts out, asking where that thing came from. That noise seems to draw the bear-suited figure, who starts coming at him with both arms out. The boy pounds on the zombie holding his leg, while the other one keeps getting closer. When he glances back and sees the bear-suited one really noticed him, he thinks he's done for. Cao wonders why every trip out makes him run into a new kind of mutant zombie. He also notices Xiao Yu isn't going into that emergency state like before, so this one must be weaker. The car zombie moves in a weird way, and our hero realizes it slides sideways. The monster screams in rage and locks its eyes on him. One of the faces making up the car opens its mouth, and then something bizarre happens. It swells up, veins bulging all over. A split second later, it blows up with a massive bang. He catches it just in time. Jumping aside, he barely dodges the blast. He looks back, stunned, wondering what that even was. A zombie jet? Meanwhile, the zombie car stares right at him, growling. It gets mad, and he almost seems excited by that. When it fires 2 more zombie jets, Cao says he's figured out how to beat it. No matter how strong it is, a car without a driver is useless. He calls Xiao Yu over and tells her to target its head with everything she's got. She does exactly that, charging full speed at the zombie driver's head. After the hit, one of the car's faces screams. Right after, the whole zombie starts glowing like fireworks pouring down. A few seconds later, it explodes into a bright ball, and our hero can only say that was amazing. He turns back with a worried look, wondering how the kid is doing. Then we cut to the brat's flashlight lying on the ground. Wang is smashing the zombie that grabbed his foot and knocked him down. The bear head slips off to the side, exposing the zombie inside the costume. It walks toward the boy as he begs it to stop. Crying, he calls out for his father. Then everything goes quiet for a moment. The zombie stops right in front of him and looks down at him. After another long pause, it almost seems to let out a soft laugh. Wang is completely frozen in shock. He remembers asking his dad once what they'd do in a movie-style apocalypse, and his father said life would become hard for everyone. What people would need most, he said, is hope and a reason to stay positive. Back in the present, tears run down the brat's face as he grits his teeth, lifts his weapon, and shouts. We see the zombie version of the man in the bear suit, then a memory of him alive, smiling and asking him to please, and the boy does what he came there to do. Later, the brat talks with Cao, who carries Xiao Yu on his back, and says his father's answer was really cool. He asks if one day he'll be that strong too. He wants to be a soldier who makes people laugh. Cao says, maybe not that part, but with a father that amazing, he'll definitely grow even stronger than him. Crying, the brat looks at our hero and says yes. Later, a card game is underway. Cao is playing cards, and after a few days in camp, he starts taking on more missions. He says he's gotten closer to the people there, and before this, he hadn't paid much attention to mission rewards. But Wang's toy, for example, was added to the museum and gave him bonus points. That's when he learns that if a contractor offers something important to them as payment, it turns into points. On top of that, the item gets stored in the system's museum. Cao tells Lao Li he can't back out of their bet now, and asks for the cigarettes he always keeps on him. The man asks if something else would work, but Cao says no. He takes one and tries to light it, saying he'll smoke it right there. Cao calls him a sore loser and chases after him. The second he lights it, he starts coughing like crazy. Everyone nearby laughs and tells him he doesn't need to act cool when he can't even smoke. One of the guys says it's not about looking cool. It reminds him of his wife, so he lights one whenever he thinks about her, because of the smell. Lao Li then points out that Dashen is already 30 and still asked Xiao Meng to fetch him a stuffed animal. Embarrassed, Dashen says it was for his daughter, because she likes that kind of thing. Cao asks if Dashen really has a daughter, since he's never seen her. Dashen says they live in the county. He called them a few days after everything started, and he thinks they're okay because they're tough. Then someone reveals that Xiao Yu also had Xiao Yu Meng find something for him, and now everyone wants to know what it was. The guy with glasses brushes it off as nothing, while another one grins and says he's just shy. Lo Lu offers Xiaoming his watch if he'll tell them what the boy asked him to bring back. Our hero refuses. He says that's protected by the client's privacy agreement. Then the boy says it's fine and admits he asked for flowers. Everyone goes silent when they hear that request. Then 2 of the men burst out laughing. One asks if the flowers they found in the trash were his, and the other asks who he confessed to. Then someone says it was Dexia Liku from logistics, and everybody cracks up. Annoyed, he says his heart is already broken, so how can his friends laugh at him like this? Suddenly, a bolt of lightning tears across the sky. All the boys look up, wondering what that was, and if it really was. A flash of lightning hits, and the captain shows up while hurriedly getting dressed. Cao is left completely stunned. She immediately tells everyone to move. Covering his eyes, Cao asks what's going on. The captain orders Xiao Yu to take the weak, sick, and injured to the 3rd floor. She tells Lao Li to gather people and weapons, while she sets up the defense. Cao wonders what's happening and why the whole camp is mobilizing. As she ties her hair up, she says a zombie wave is coming. Cao jumps at the chance and asks if she wants to hire them to help defend the place. She studies him for a moment, then agrees, but warns the reward won't be much. Cao proudly asks if he looks like the kind of shady merchant who preys on people, all while thinking the system will pay him anyway. A second later, the system confirms it's an S-rank mission. That shocks Cao. A B-rank mission had already worn him out badly. He starts yelling at the system, saying it should show the mission rank before he accepts. To him, this feels like a scam. After a while, more lightning flashes overhead. Lao Yu lights a cigarette and hopes this time won't end badly. Cao asks what happened last time. Lao Yu says the camp used to have a different captain, but she died half a month ago on a rainy day just like this. As he talks, he brings up the white-haired zombie that killed her. Then he goes quiet, staring off for a while before finally glancing aside. At last, he reveals that the one who killed her at the port, the same place he met Fat Su, was the camp's current captain, Meng Di. He says it started when they got a radio message, and the leader at the time went out to search for survivors. It was their first time going out in the rain since the apocalypse began, and they had no idea rain made the zombies more violent. The two women fought all the time. They saw the world in totally different ways, even though both were smart and determined. Then someone shouts that zombies are ahead of them, and they're surrounded. The former leader tells everyone to move aside because she'll handle it, then opens fire on the zombies. In the middle of the fight, she spots a zombie lunging at her from the side. She dodges at once. Nearby, wires have been set up, and one zombie walks straight into them and gets caught by the neck. The woman on the other end yanks the wire up, using the zombie's own weight against it. Right after that, she kicks it in the face. The blow sends it flying into the other zombies and crashing into one of them. She lands cleanly on the ground. Once she's back on her feet, she tells her group to keep moving. The current captain orders them to run and not slow down. Then she looks up at a container and asks what that is. A second later, she shouts for Yenji to watch out. A piece of metal suddenly flies out and slashes Yenji across the face, leaving a long vertical cut. Then a zombie drops down right in front of her. It snarls at her, and this one is clearly a mutant, with extra teeth. She locks eyes with it, knowing what she'll soon have to do. Yenji calls out to Meng Di, warning that if they don't move now, everyone there will die. After a short silence, the other woman yells for Lao Li to take them and go. He agrees right away, but inside he's full of doubt. He knows staying would only get more people killed. So he ran, drove around to meet the others on the far side, and then came back to the port. What he never expected was that only Meng Di would return to the car. The moment she got in, she told him to start the engine. He asks about Yenji, but she only repeats herself and tells him to drive as zombies close in around the car. He asks again about the other woman, begging for an answer. After a few silent seconds, Meng Di says she killed her. He goes on to say that after they returned, she claimed the other woman had tried to use her as bait so she could escape alone. According to Meng Di, that's why she killed her. But many people in camp think she lied and did it to seize control, and they wanted him to do something since he was there. He stayed quiet because, to him, if Yenji was gone, then Meng Di really was the best person left to lead the camp. Even so, he still wonders if she really was the right leader, and whether staying silent was the right choice. Cao tells him the camp survived, and that answer speaks for itself. Then Cao says he made the right call. Having a leader who keeps people alive matters more than the full truth. The man smiles faintly and repeats one word to himself: survive. Rain keeps pouring deep into the night. As the rain spreads through the city center, the zombies grow more restless. Lightning cracks overhead, pushing them into an even worse frenzy. Cao notices it, and says the invasion has started. On the east side, the captain starts giving orders to the camp members. She tells them to set electric fences on the windows, and not to spare fuel. Survival comes first. One man is shocked by that. He can't believe zombies can climb windows until he sees one doing it right behind him. Another man yells for him to move and pull the electric fence while he covers him. Soon, zombies are crawling up the windows and climbing the building. Someone calls out that the west side needs more people. One zombie reaches a window, looks inside, and screams. Then our zombie girl's foot slams into its face. Loli asks Cao where he found a girl like that, because she's amazing. Cao says she trained in Chinese kickboxing, and she's not his girlfriend. Then a man runs over and calls Lao Li for help on the other side. Lao Li answers right away and starts to head out, but the captain stops him and tells him to stay there, calling Xiao Yu Wu instead. Confused, Lao Li asks if he's really supposed to stay on that side. The captain says yes, he's in charge there now. His friend jokes that maybe Lao Li thought they couldn't hold the line without him, and Lao Li snaps back for him to shut up and go. A zombie sneaks up behind Lao Li, but Tiem warns him just in time, and kills it before it can strike. Lao Li apologizes, and the two of them keep fighting side by side. At the west side entrance to the third floor, bodies are already down and people are fleeing from zombies. The captain orders Dashan to wipe out the zombies and rebuild the line while she holds the third floor passage with Xiao Yu Yu. She can tell things are going bad, and wonders if she'll have to blow up the west stairway. A boy being chased by a zombie nearly gets caught, but his friend saves him and tells him to get up and help the captain. Soon after, the captain orders Group B to switch on every light. One boy warns that they don't have enough fuel. She says that doesn't matter. If they can't live through the night, the fuel means nothing anyway. Again, zombies start climbing through the windows. Then an improvised spear drives straight through a zombie's mouth. One friend says maybe he's not so useless after all, and the other just grins and tells him not to get cocky. He fires back, asking how many of them can score a headshot with a spear, and the captain tells him to go get a few more. Laughing, he says that if they survive, he'll help with their wedding. Behind the captain, one window is still whole, while another has already been smashed. More importantly, claw marks are dug deep into the concrete around one of them. Back on the eastern line, a mutant zombie covered in spikes lets out a scream. Tio spots the mutant behind him, just as it leaps his way. He shouts for Xiao Yu, while the zombie closes in, claws ready to tear into him, but our zombie girl blocks the attack in time. Cao realizes he was way too close to dying there. He knows that if he were an ordinary person, that hit would have killed him for sure. Back in the west area, things are getting desperate. The man with glasses takes a deadly hit to the stomach, and the captain sees it happen. His voice shakes as he calls out to her, already losing strength. The door is being held shut with sacks and shell cases piled behind it. An old woman asks Daishan why they've all been forced up there. He calls her Grandma Chen and apologizes for failing to protect the base. The people around them panic, crying that they don't want to die yet. The captain tells everyone to stay calm because it's not over. She orders Lao Li to count the people, and anyone who's been bitten is to get a dose of kindness. A girl walks over to Dashan and says she'll treat his wound. Without another word, she starts working on the cut on his arm. After a few seconds, he calls her Xiao Yu and starts to speak. She says he's dead. She didn't see the boy come back with them, but she had hoped she was wrong. The man apologizes, saying he couldn't protect him. Cao says that idiot confessed to her out of nowhere, holding a bunch of flowers right in front of her. She got flustered and turned him down without thinking, then later tried to find him so they could talk, but couldn't. As tears start falling, she admits she really did like him, and now she can't hold it in anymore. Nearby, Lao Li tells the captain they only have 9 soldiers and 4 logistics members left, and she says that's far too few. Wang starts shouting that he wants to go back down. Xiao Yu's brother was killed by zombies, and he wants revenge. He says if they're not going to fight back, then they're just trapped up there waiting to die, so they need to do something. At that moment, the zombies reach the door and start forcing it open. Everyone inside panics. The captain orders an immediate retreat. Cao figures he and Xiao Yu could probably escape, but he wonders what will happen to the others. Meanwhile, the zombie girl keeps scarfing down food, and our boy tells her to slow down. Nobody's taking it from her. He considers doing a random draw, but whatever comes out might be useless. When he opens the system, he spots something worth trying. It's an item called Large Meal for Staff. He swipes over to the HR screen, where his employee, the zombie girl, is listed. Another swipe brings up a prompt asking if he wants to unlock a new worker slot. He says yes and wonders if anyone nearby can fill it. A moment later, the screen starts loading a resume. After the search, Emma Yusuke studies the system screen. Outside, the rain still hasn't let up. Cao tells leader Meng he has to leave for a bit, so Xiao Yu will stay behind and help defend in his place. He adds that if he survives, he'll come back soon. Then the girl calls out, reminding him that he accepted her mission. He smiles and says not to worry. He remembers. They're business people, after all. To him, keeping your word comes first. Another heavy slam crashes into the door. At last a hand breaks through, and a zombie jams its face into the opening. The captain immediately orders everyone to defend. Right then, a zombie jumps at Xiao Yu from behind. It goes in for the strike, but the zombie girl is ready, and counters at once. A little earlier, while she was eating, Cao asked if she could help defend the place for a while. He says he has somewhere he needs to go, and without it, the camp won't make it to morning. He also warns that if the girl isn't there, they probably won't last even 3 more hours. Cao tells her to stay there alone and help protect everyone, and says he won't give her orders. He says it's not because he thinks she can just handle everything by herself. Then he smiles and says he trusts her. After that, the girl uses her power and sends energy through her body. Out in the rain, our hero hides against a container. He realizes most of the zombies have gathered around the camp, so there are fewer near the port. Now he has to figure out how to control the new maid. He knows he can't count on the approval system, the way he did with the first maid, the zombie girl. Checking the system, he reminds himself he came prepared with a modified UV beacon, but it only works once. Other than that, all he has is his trusty sword. As he moves across the containers, he wonders if the people at camp can hold on. Then he decides worrying about them won't help. If he slips up, he'll get torn apart. Just as he thinks another mutant zombie would beat him up, one appears behind him. He says nothing and slowly turns his head. Suddenly, a mutant zombie drops from the top of the containers and attacks. Cao can only stare in shock. Thinking his bad luck struck again, he braces himself and raises his weapon to block. The zombie slams right into it, and our boy manages to stop the attack. But the weapon snaps in half and flies away. The impact sends him back hard into a container. Before he can even hit the ground, the mutant zombie rushes him again. Then, something interrupts it just before it reaches him. It's the white-haired zombie girl, and she stops the mutant zombie cold. The mutant attacks her next, but she slips away. At the same time, she plants a hit right in its face. Our boy watches them clash, while the first mutant zombie smashes face first into a container. Seeing that, he breathes out, thinking he's safe for the moment. He watches the mutant zombie girl's moves and wonders if she knew Krav Maga before she died. The two fight like they've done this before, but then the mutant zombie grabs her leg and slams her face into the ground. Pinning her down, it licks her neck and gets ready to bite. Then it bites into her. As its teeth sink into her neck, the wound on its arm starts healing. It's absorbing her to recover. KO hesitates. If he runs, the camp is finished, but jumping in could make things even worse. Then he thinks of the zombie girl and decides there's no time to hold back. He grabs the UV lens, switches it on, and draws the zombie's attention. The zombie turns toward the light and lifts a hand to shield its face from the glare. Meanwhile, Kev warns him not to even think about hurting his own maid. The zombie then leaps out of the UV beam and lunges at him. But just as it closes in, an iron bar punches through its body. On a container to his left, the white-haired zombie girl stands ready with 2 more iron bars. She throws both, and they pin the zombie down. Now iron bars are stuck all through its body, holding it to the ground as it howls. A few seconds later, the zombie's body just vanishes. Our boy says it's finally dead, and wonders if that explosion happened because it was a mutant zombie. Then the white-haired zombie girl steps in front of him, still holding an iron bar. Now Cal has to figure out how he's supposed to control this young lady. Lightning flashes across the stormy night again. The kid tells him to aim for the zombie's head, but the man says they're too fast and he can't line up a shot. Then 3 zombies jump at the kid. The zombie girl was watching though, and tears right through all 3 to protect him. One of them is a mutant, so her attack doesn't finish it off. It turns around and leaps at her. A split second later, the wall behind her explodes apart. The mutant zombie ends up with both hands buried in the wall. Meanwhile, she's already above its head. Then she drops down and lands a killing blow from above. One man snaps at the others not to just stand there staring at the girl. Kato already warned them not to stay near her right now. He says if they slack off, they'll be the ones dragging everyone down. Then, someone points out to Lao Li that one of the zombies got back up. He tells them to leave it to him and charges in. But when he swings, the zombie dodges fast and moves to attack back. Even so, he says that little girl is strong, and he can't back down either. He refuses to give up. Dodging the zombie's strike, he counters with another hit. They all tell themselves they cannot die here. One man says his wife and daughter are waiting for him. Then, he sees a mother and little girl, both as zombies. He recognizes them right away and freezes in shock. His axe slips from his hand and crashes to the ground. Dropping to his knees, he calls out to Ying Hong and his daughter. The two shuffle toward him, blank-eyed, mouths open with hunger. With his voice shaking, he asks how they ended up there. They move closer while he remembers how they used to be. Still stunned, he gives a shaky smile and says they came all this way to find him. He gets up, opens his arms, and says he missed them so much, telling them to hurry over so he can hold them. As they close in, he gently says they should go home. One of his friends suddenly shouts for Dashon. Another can only watch in disbelief. Xiao Yu leans against the sandbags, trying to rest. Still worn out from using her power, she struggles to stand. A zombie with a red headband appears in front of them, and behind it, countless more zombies keep coming. The zombie girl, one eye shut from the strain, forces herself back up. The boy shouts for Dashon not to get any closer. A girl tells Xiao Yu not to go after her. Then she trips over a trash bin holding a bouquet, and a zombie steps on the flowers that had once been given to her. The zombie lets out a savage roar. The injured zombie girl grits her teeth. Then, she charges forward. But halfway there, she collapses. Unable to stay up, she still tries again because everyone she was left there to protect has fallen one after another. Then, she remembers Cao saying he trusted her. She stands once more and faces the endless zombies ahead. They all stare back at her, and she answers with a fierce scream. Still, her legs give out again and she starts to fall. Before she can hit the ground, someone catches her. She looks up and sees her boss, who tells her to rest. He says he'll handle the rest, and the white-haired zombie girl is standing beside him too. Nearby, a girl lies on the ground in tears, screaming for a zombie not to come closer. Suddenly, the zombie is knocked aside by something that hits its head. Then we hear Cao tell Cao Wu to rest in peace. Elsewhere in camp, a man struggles with a zombie and wonders how Dashon is this strong. The white-haired zombie girl rushes past and smashes the zombie Dashon was fighting in the back. Lao Li stares wide-eyed, realizing who the white-haired zombie girl is. Cao tells Lao Li to look after Xiao Yu and leave the rest to him. At the same time, someone wonders who the reinforcements are and who that white-haired woman is. The captain says it looks like he noticed too. Watching all this, she says that even with so many changes, there's no way they could beat me. No doubt about it, the white-haired zombie is Yen Ji. She spots a target ahead and rushes straight for it. With one easy swing, she splits the zombie's head in two like it took no effort at all. A few hours earlier, we see that same white-haired zombie near the pork container. Cao tells Yunji the camp she was guarding is in big trouble, and they need her help. When she doesn't react, He admits that didn't work and tries a different way to persuade her. This time, Cao says he's willing to help Yunji kill Mengdi. She still says nothing, and he grits his teeth, realizing his plan failed again. Then she starts walking toward him with an iron bar. Cao looks around for an escape, thinking he might die right there. She suddenly attacks and hurls the iron bar right at his face. Then a loud crash rings out. Cao ends up on the ground, and a zombie lies beside him with the iron bar she threw. The system announces that Yunji has accepted a temporary employee contract with him. Seeing the contract type, Cao realizes she's only agreeing to help for the time being. The system adds that this temporary deal can be cancelled anytime if Yunji wants. Back at the camp, Yunji tears through the zombies around her. Cao excitedly cheers, calling her amazing. She gets embarrassed and snaps at him, saying his lucky cheer made him sound weak. Nearby, a zombie holds a megaphone. It shouts into the megaphone and points ahead, sending the other zombies that way. Cao asks if she wants to really show him what she can do. She instantly charges into the zombie group. On the way, she picks up a knife from the ground. The system says employee Gandhi is using her weapon master skill. The knife in her hand starts glowing brightly. Stunned, Cao says it was just a tiny dagger, so how is she doing this? Then we see the damage. Yunji cuts every zombie in half with nothing but that simple dagger. The system explains that her skill can turn anything she holds into a weapon and boost its range and power. Once again, we go back to the pork containers on that rainy night. The captain tells Yunji they seem to have lost the zombies and might make it back to camp fast. The other girl grabs her hand and calls out to her. She shows 2 huge scratches on her arms and says she may not be able to return to camp. Then she says she'll find an axe and cut off her arm. If the virus hasn't spread yet, she still has a chance. She explains that she fought that guy too long and is only barely staying awake now. She tells the other girl not to say she died fighting zombies, and says she's the only one fit to lead after she's gone. While hugging her, she begs her to take care of the camp for her. The captain calls her a liar, saying she hides and cries over her every day. Then she smiles and says once this night is over, she'll get her revenge. Meanwhile, the megaphone zombie keeps shouting as another horde rushes their way. The white-haired zombie gets ready to fight. She slams one zombie with a box. Then she spots a screwdriver and moves fast. She throws it, and it tears through the faces of 3 zombies in one shot. Teo can't believe a screwdriver just did that much damage from that far away. Next, she grabs a tennis ball. The ball starts glowing, and she throws it at the horde. It smashes into a zombie's face, and Teo starts hoping they can win. The megaphone zombie keeps calling out, and more zombies keep pouring in. Cal points at the megaphone zombie and says they need to take him out fast. The system relays that the zombie thinks it's impossible to break through that crowd, but Xiao says they'll handle the smaller ones. Then their eyes meet, and the captain says to leave it to them. Xiao tells Yanji to focus on the leader, while the rest deal with the weaker zombies. Right after that, he opens his backpack, and says he's been waiting to test something. Excited, Xiao pulls out a clapping monkey toy. He switches it on, and as it makes a ton of noise, he yells for the zombies to follow him. Lao Li says he wanted to help too, but another man tells him to get more ammo because he's out. Yunji pauses, watching Xiao's plan and the camp survivors fighting back. As the battle goes on, a faint smile appears on her face. Then she leaps straight toward the megaphone zombie. The moment she passes him, his head drops clean off. The other zombies freeze, not understanding what just happened. Still holding the knife, she suddenly cuts down all the zombies around her. She stops behind one zombie with the knife still in hand. Then she throws it, but the zombie blocks the attack. Qiao panics, yelling that her last weapon was stopped. She grabs a belt, and it instantly begins to glow. A second later, one zombie's pants drop. He angrily shouts that she stole his belt. She quickly loops it around his neck and yanks back. Then she takes a breath and calmly shuts her eyes. With one last pull, she finishes the zombie. The next scene shifts to a sunny morning. Lyle Li digs a hole with a shovel, and we learn 2 weeks have passed since that awful night. Another grave is prepared, and we're told fewer than half the survivors made it through. Because the building was so badly damaged, the rest decide to leave. As the group gets ready to depart, Cao receives several new missions. Lao Li kept pushing the captain to explain what happened that night with Yunji, and she finally told him everything. Xiao Yu wakes up after being out for 2 days, and immediately stuffs herself with food. But after that day, no one ever saw Yunji again. The captain says they can go once everything is packed. Lao Li asks if she really isn't coming with them. With her back turned, she says she's staying behind to wait for Yanji. Lao Li says that's crazy. She doesn't even know if Yanji will come back. He asks how long she plans to wait, and reminds her it's dangerous. She says her mind is made up, and he should stop trying. But he keeps asking her to say something reasonable. At the same time, Yanji watches them from the top of a nearby building. Cao suddenly appears and asks if she's really not going down to see them. She turns, and he tells her not to be shocked. Their temporary contract still exists, so he can still track her. Walking closer, Cao says that even though Lao Li was suspicious, he held back for the camp's sake, and because of her, Mengdi had too much on her shoulders. Kao seriously tells her to go down there and at least say goodbye the right way. She stands there in silence for a few seconds, thinking. He jokes that she's already a zombie, so she doesn't need to think this hard anymore. Then Seo smiles and speaks softly. He tells her not to worry because he's with her, and urges her to go. Meanwhile, Lo Li is still arguing with Meng. At last, she tells him to stop trying to change her mind and just leave. He snaps back that if that's how it is, then they'll all stay together, and he'll wait with her. Seo arrives and tells them both to stop arguing. Then he says he brought Yunji back to see them. Lo Li happily heads for the car, saying this is great, and now they can finally leave. But Seo stops that idea. Yunji isn't there to go with them, only to say goodbye. Everyone stares in surprise. Seo explains that she's not human anymore, and the horns on her head prove it. Somehow though, he can still talk to her. The group hesitates behind Lo Li, while he assumes they're just nervous because of the zombies. Mengde shouts that Yunji was really going to leave without saying goodbye. She asks if Yunji has any idea what she went through this past month. Mengde says everyone doubted her after she took Yunji's place, but she handled the pressure and finally brought the group together. Even so, every day she questioned herself and feared she'd tear everyone apart. She kept asking herself what Yunji would have done. Mengde says Yunji not being human anymore doesn't change anything. They fought side by side, and if not for Teo, she wouldn't have even gotten this last goodbye. Yunji walks up to her and gently places a hand on her head. Tears fill Mengde's eyes, then start pouring out. Unable to hold back anymore, she throws her arms around Yunji. Teo says he'll be counting on Lo Li and Mengde from here on out. The guy smiles and tells him to leave it to him. The captain says it's the most expensive outfit she bought before the apocalypse, so Yunji better take good care of it. The brat asks if Seo and the zombie girl aren't coming too, and what they should do if they can't beat the zombies. Seo answers that they just need to do their best. Then he tells them to stay positive and remember what his father told him. Soon, the three of them stand and watch the van carrying the survivors drive away. Seo stands beside Mengji and says they finally left. Glancing at her, he asks if she has any plans now. She stays quiet, and then the system pops up with a notice that a new employee has been hired. The system says that even if she thinks he complains too much, following him isn't a bad choice for now. Seo smiles and says he's fine with that. He opens the system screen, says it's time for rewards, sees he has 1007 points, and decides to spin the roulette 10 times. After everything it took, our boy is finally ready. After all that work, he finally hit his first 1,000 points. Grinning, he tells the system to start the lottery. He gets fired up and says today has to be his lucky day. While the two maids watch, he eagerly tells the roulette to spin. His first prize is a night vision contact lens that lets him see a short distance in the dark. He also gets a black and red tactical knife. Kao is thrilled to pull 2 blue-grade items right away. Now he doesn't have to carry weapons, he can summon them from the system. After putting away the knife, he tells the system to keep going. The next pulls are a mixed bag: bottled salt, soda, bath gel, employee food and other supplies. As the 2 zombie girls watch, he taps the ground and curses his bad mouth, then lands 2 more items. One is an employee regenerative potion, and the other is short-term mutation prevention medicine. To finish it off, he wins 2 memory fragments, one from Ho Xiao Yu and 1 universal fragment. That makes him start praising the system like it's the savior of the universe, which leaves the girls awkwardly staring. Then he wonders who should get the universal memory fragment. Since he's curious about Yunji's past, he decides to use it on her. The system confirms the exchange, and with bright eyes, he calls Yunji over so he can watch her memories. A moment later, he's standing in a barren desert. Then a massive blast goes off behind him, and he spins around, asking what just happened. He finds people battling each other with weapons in the middle of a ruined war zone. Looking around, he tries to figure out where this is. A bald man says wasting bullets on that peacekeeper squad isn't worth it anymore. They should just burn them all. Hearing that, Kao wonders if the girl used to be a terrorist. Suddenly, a hand reaches out from a pile of bodies. The girl slowly crawls free, looking around in fear. She keeps dragging herself forward without stopping. Moments later, a flamethrower lights up and burns the bodies around where she was. Then the memory shifts to a smoky night under a bright moon. Soman says maybe they didn't gather the peacekeeper team Sanhoi Owl just to wipe out the country's terrorist forces. He goes on, saying they were nearly wiped out because she saved a little girl from violence. According to him, even one small kind act was enough to alert the terrorists. And the worst part is that little girl later became a spy. He ends by saying only 1 person survived out of 67. That's how Sanhoi Owl came to an end. He adds that, thanks to the information she brought back, the wolf group was completely destroyed. As he places roses in front of a grave, he says the Sanhoi Owl number will always be kept alive and passed on. The girl beside him just stares ahead with no emotion at all, turning away from her. The man says that's something he can do. He adds that the organization arranged a vacation for her, along with psychological support. He tells her she can come back whenever she wants, but she asks him to cancel the plan to preserve Sanhoi Owl's number. When he asks why, she answers that Sanhoi Owl should not be passed on. She says it can't be inherited because Sanhoi Owl was made up of every person buried in that cemetery. The man she was speaking to is shown next. His name is Tanyo Ye. Next, she walks past a wall of photos, including one of Tanyo Ye. Later, she sits by herself in the cafeteria and quietly eats lunch. She spends even her shower time alone. After that, Yunji leaves the Sanhoi Owl Lounge with no one else around. Yunji enters a room, salutes, and calls for Captain Chen. She reports that she brought back the report and helped finish off the terrorist group. With tears on her face, she says the Sanhoi Owl mission is complete. All the while, Sao watches in silence. Then the girl stares off into the distance, and the memory starts to blur. Right then, the system gives Sao a new mission, and he says this one sounds easy. The task is to visit the captain's house, so he checks the address on the map. Once he confirms the location, he tells the girls they're heading there. Before they move out, he says they need new clothes, because Yeonjai's outfit is too torn up. By the time they keep going, enough time has clearly passed. Tired and annoyed, he complains that the system says they're close, but still won't show exactly where Captain Chen's house is. He wonders how he's supposed to find it, then takes a breath and says maybe luck just isn't on their side today. Soon he gives up for now, and figures it's time to find a place to stay the night. The second he says that, a gunshot rings out nearby. Right after, someone yells for everyone to move faster. A group of survivors comes into view, and one man with glasses keeps shouting at them to run. Sao tells his girls to stop the zombies while he goes to help the survivors. Both girls rush straight at the attacking zombies. Their fighting styles are almost the same. They leap in cold-faced and strike fast. One uses brutal punches, the other uses deadly kicks, and both are lethal. One survivor asks who they are and where they came from, but the other admits he has no idea. Still, he says the girls are incredibly strong. Then one of them notices a zombie still behind them. Before it can attack, Sao drops onto it with his new sword and smashes it into the ground. The two survivors can only stare. Smiling, Sao asks if they're hurt and whether they can stand. One of them answers with a shaky voice that they're fine. Sao keeps smiling and says they would have been finished without their help. The survivor with glasses then asks if he can help them. Sao hesitates but says it's fine. Then the system pops up with another mission. Hear the group out and defeat a werewolf. That makes Sao wonder if it's really a werewolf or just some new mutant zombie. The survivors say they don't know, they've just been stuck there for 4 days, all because they spotted it. Hearing that, Sao says he's interested now. The man tells him that if he protects them, he can take whatever he wants once they reach the camp. Sao grins and says he'll be collecting on that, and the man with glasses promises he means it. A sudden clash comes from the building ahead. It sounds like the werewolf they mentioned has finally shown up. Sao orders Yunji to handle it. He puts Xiaoyu on survivor duty, while he goes to back Yunji up. Then, out of nowhere, one of the survivors pulls out a gun. Caught off guard, Sao turns back. The man with glasses is staring ahead with a crazed look in his eyes. He screams for everyone to move, and Sao realizes the whole group is armed with guns or other ranged weapons. Completely confused, he has no idea what's going on. At the same time, Yanji charges in and slams the werewolf in the chest. The survivors seize the chance and open fire with their ranged weapons. Sao immediately tells them to stop, because his maid is still right in the line of fire, but they ignore him and keep shooting at the werewolf. Qiao yells for Yanji to dodge. She glances back blankly and finally notices the bullets flying at her. With a lot of effort, Yanji barely avoids the shots and dives behind a car. The werewolf in front of her gets torn apart by the survivor's bullets. Furious, Qiao grabs one survivor by the shirt. He snaps that his maid was still up front when they started firing, and the man claims he was only trying to help. Still annoyed, Qiao lets go and shoves him away. Then he tells them to hide, because that much gunfire will bring a swarm of zombies. Even so, he says he's a man of his word and will keep the promise he made them. He then looks at Xiaoyu and tells her to go after them. In the distance, signs of fighting are everywhere. Meanwhile, the werewolf keeps running and howling. Yanji stays right on its heels. As it passes an old car, the werewolf rips off the door and hurls it at her. Yanji is caught off guard when the door comes flying at her, but with insane speed and strength, she catches it, spins and throws it right back. The car door slams straight into the werewolf's arm. The impact sends it flying several meters. It twists in midair, catches the wall, and keeps fleeing. The chase and fight keep going through the building. Xiao says the beast is hurt, so it has to be hiding on one of the floors. A while later, he says the smell is so strong that even he can sense it, so the werewolf must be nearby. Then Tiao tells Xiaoyu to break the door down. With one strong kick, she smashes the door open. Inside, they find a woman and a child. Xiao is clearly stunned and can't make sense of it. Then the system updates the mission and tells him he's finally reached the destination. It's Captain Chen's house. After a moment, Tiao asks if the werewolf really saved her, and the woman says yes. She explains that she escaped from a camp run by bandits, and the werewolf helped her. Those men captured her, threw out the elderly, kept only women and children, and made it clear they were doing it for fun. She says she'd rather be eaten by zombies than stay there, So during a zombie attack one night, she ran, desperate and trapped between zombies and bandits. She says that's when she met the werewolf. While she talks, Chiao turns a corner inside the apartment and spots something important. It's a certificate for a hunting dog named Main Tank. Chiao realizes Captain Chen's rescue and hunting dog must have evolved into a zombie. At the same time, Yenji is watching the werewolf in the next room. Chiao figures the werewolf showed up that night because it thought they were in danger and came to protect them. He says his life is miserable. He keeps trying to save people, but most of them end up as zombies anyway. Then, something from Yenji's memories comes back to him that makes him realize the werewolf looks a lot like someone he knows. A sudden scream cuts through the room, and someone cries out for Tank. The survivor with glasses is there too, pressing a gun to the woman's face and acting like everything is under control. Then he insults her and claims she belongs to him. From deeper inside the building, someone screams, "No!" 3 people stop at an apartment door and look inside. The man with glasses grabs the girl by the hair and says he'd search the whole world to take back what he thinks is his. Then a voice cuts in and tells him to let her go. Seeing Sao, the survivor gives a mocking little cheer. Even with guns aimed at him, Sao says nobody wants this. All he came for was to kill the werewolf like he promised, then take his pay and leave. With a nasty grin, the man adds that Sao can even keep the girl if he wants. Sao takes a breath and tells himself he's finally face to face with the real apocalypse. The werewolf is furious, but Yenji blocks him with one hand, stopping him from charging the survivors. Sao can't help thinking dogs became human, while humans turned out worse than dogs. One survivor asks if that's Sao's answer, then says that's too bad, he was ready to spare them. He points forward, and the others rush in as he orders them to grab the 2 women. Sao stays calm and calls for Yenji and Xiaoyu. With a crazed look, he tells them to go. 2 survivors sprint at the girls, but a blur flashes past one man's head and the other's face. Just as fast, it disappears, and both men's heads twist at impossible angles. A moment later, the 2 girls land neatly in front of the bodies. Then they let out a chilling scream. Hearing it, 2 more survivors finally understand the truth. The girls are zombies, and Sao has been raising them. Panic takes over, and they run. The werewolf gives a low growl and starts after them. But Nup Xiao stops him, saying a rescue and hunting dog shouldn't go against its nature. He tells him to leave this part to them. As one survivor runs, he rants that anyone who keeps zombies is insane. He doesn't see where he's going, slams into something, and crashes to the floor. The second he looks up and sees Yunji in front of him, he bolts the other way. But after only a few steps, he finds Xiaoyu waiting on that side too. Trapped with nowhere left to go, he screams as the 2 girls close in. He keeps yelling while each girl grabs one of his shoulders. Then they each tear off a piece for themselves. Another survivor is still racing through the building. At the corner, he catches a blur. Spotting a half-open apartment door, he dives inside. Desperate, he slams it shut behind him. Panicking, he curses his friend for not giving him a weapon, and realizes the guy probably wanted him dead. Then it hits him. He may have slammed the door way too hard. He covers his mouth and tries not to make a sound as footsteps move through the hall outside. They keep getting closer while he stares at the door in fear. Then the footsteps start fading, which somehow makes him even more nervous. The fear gets so bad he wets himself. Thinking he might be safe, he hears the dripping from his pants. Then a hand suddenly punches through the wooden door beside him. Through the hole, Xiaoyu peers in with her usual blank face. When she spots him beside the door, a tiny smile appears. Meanwhile, the survivor with glasses keeps running through the halls in panic. He turns, aims his gun down the hallway, and asks Sao if he really has no honor hunting his own client. Sao answers that the man doesn't deserve to be called human, so he doesn't count him as one. The man starts to panic when he realizes his pistol is empty. Still running, he tosses the gun aside. As he runs, he says people risk their lives in the apocalypse to gather food and shelter for women, then argues that using them as toys now and then is just another kind of trade. Tao rounds the corner right behind him. A second later, the man slips into an apartment. By the entrance, there's another door, and he hides there with a knife, watching Tao pass by. Once he's sure he wasn't noticed, he lunges with the blade. He leaps out screaming, accusing Tao of trying to send him to his grave. Tao plants both feet into the man's stomach and knocks the air out of him. Realizing what Tao is doing, the man scrambles to stab him. The knife barely misses Cao's face. Then, a loud crash echoes out. When it clears, Cao is on his feet, and the man is flat on his back. Cao says he won't just stop this man. He's going after everyone in that camp. Wiping his face, he repeats that he'll deal with every last one of them. The survivor laughs and says Cao may have 2 monsters, but the camp has guns and crazed convicts on its side. Cao says none of that matters, and draws his sword. Now shaking, the man yells that everyone in this world has gone crazy. Cao doesn't react, so the man shouts again, then curses and charges wildly. As he closes in, Cao presses a hand to the man's face. Using that grip, he flips him hard onto the floor. Then Cao drives his sword into the floor right beside the man's head. Cao says this world has no laws or morals left. People make their own rules now and live by their true nature. He's not some hero of justice, but his way of surviving is the complete opposite of this man's. Lifting his sword, Cao says that's all he needs to be. The view shifts to the hallway as the man's scream rings out. Tiao stands there and says it's time to figure out the next move. Then we cut to a man hanging upside down by his feet while zombies gather below, trying to reach him. He screams for help and begs someone to cut him down. On the rooftop, another man taunts a girl tied at his feet, asking how it feels to watch her boyfriend get eaten. Her voice shaking, she begs for mercy and promises she won't run again. He stomps on her face and tells her to shut up. He says she's only alive because she can still be useful, then asks how she dares talk back. Desperate, the girl screams for him to stop and calls for help. Smiling, he reaches for her and says they're about to have some fun. Then, his hand suddenly goes flying through the air. He drops to the ground screaming in pain. Now we see why. Xiao, the werewolf, and the two zombie girls are on the next rooftop over. The man from the rooftop suddenly falls. He lands near his friends, and they yell, asking what just happened. One asks why he fell, then notices one of his arms is gone. Another points up and asks who that is. Xiao answers that he's the one who'll wipe them all out. He adds that if they call him Master Xiao, he'll kill them even faster. A second later, the two zombie girls charge and one of them grabs a man by the face. Xiao Yu slams the man she's holding straight into the wall. One brave idiot jumps at Yan Shi. She dodges him with ease. Then she hits him from behind and sends him flying into the building. Next, both men are left hanging halfway in and halfway out. Inside, one trapped person says there's a fight outside, but another tells her to duck before she gets hit too. Behind a shut metal bar door, a woman repeats the warning and tells the other girl to get down. Then the door explodes open behind her. A man is thrown inside and smashes into the back wall. Right after that, the werewolf steps in with a hard stare. The little girl turns, eyes wide, and asks if that's the monster they meant. Outside, the fight spills into the courtyard. One man cowers in a corner, shaking as he tells his boss they can't beat Chao. The other says, the only human on that side is the leader. The rest are zombies, Cao controls. Still confident, he says even strong zombies will fear their new weapon, then orders someone to bring it out. Yen and Jay smashes a bottle on the ground. Then she hurls it at a henchman and nails him in the face. She and Xiao Yu keep moving, taking down enemies and pushing through the cursed camp. Then a gun barrel swings toward the two girls. A man manning a mounted weapon on top of a car grits his teeth and fires. The girls leap away in time, and the shots hit one of the henchmen caught between them. The armored car keeps rolling forward, spraying bullets non-stop. From above, the courtyard is ripped apart by the car and its weapon. Sei looks at the people he saved and tells them not to leave, no matter what happens. Then he turns to the guard dog and says he's trusting him with everything. The werewolf nods and keeps his eyes forward. Meanwhile, the crew on the tank keeps firing and taunting Sei to come out. From inside the vehicle, the leader shouts, asking how anyone dared invade his turf, then tells the gunner to keep firing full force. They spot the werewolf circling the armored car by the building. The gunner on top notices him, mocks him for acting immortal, and opens fire. Bullets slam into the werewolf all over his body. That makes him remember what Cao said about the serum. Once injected, it would heal his injuries much faster. Cao gave him the shot and told him to protect everyone. Now the bullet holes start closing up almost right away. With his body healing, the werewolf sprints in circles around the car. At the same time, Cao shouts that it's time for his zombie girls to move. As they get into place, he says this is their only shot, so they have to pull it off. The gang leader grits his teeth and says they've got nerve, then jerks the wheel and sprays bullets everywhere. One round skims Shoyu's hair, but she still rushes the car, clearly startled. The gunner panics and keeps firing wildly in every direction. It doesn't last long. Yenji drops onto him with part of a manhole cover and shuts him down. Then Tao's shadow appears in the armored car window. A second later, he tears the door off with one hand and hurls it away. Inside, the gang leader begs Tao to spare him and promises to give him anything he wants. Tao just looks at him and calmly asks if he's finally afraid. He turns away and tells the man to remember that fear and bury it deep, while the leader mistakes it for mercy and thanks him. After a few steps, Cao stops and says to take all of that fear with him, to hell. Then he turns back and smashes the gang leader's head. Later, they wipe out the whole bandit hideout and free every prisoner. They also clean up Captain Chen's house and seal all the doors. Then Cao smiles with his two zombie girls behind him and says it's time to move on. He tells the survivors to leave the city and go north, hoping they'll meet Mengdi's group. Tong chooses to stay and guide them. Looking up, Cao believes they'll meet again someday. With a smile, he feels his mission is finally done, then wonders if the dog is some new species. He starts thinking about the zombie outbreak and how little he really knows, so he considers checking the disease control center. But getting to the CDC sounds like too much trouble, so he drops the idea and decides to worry about it later. The system announces that his mission is complete and rewards him with 30 employee loyalty points. Grinning, he says he can't wait to see what happens when loyalty reaches 100. Then the system gives another alert. The daily interest has been counted, and his payout is now 413 points. A new message says he cancelled a Class B mission 3 days ago, so the system will charge him 10 times the point value as punishment. He panics when he realizes he didn't have enough points, so 5% interest got added to his debt. That brings back a memory he'd rather forget, going to the bank for a loan and getting turned down again. Shaken and annoyed, he tells himself to forget it and move on, while the two zombie girls stare at him in confusion. Then he decides to pull out Shoyu's memory fragment and start a new mission. He orders the system to activate the zombie girl's second memory fragment. A bright flash makes him shut his eyes. When he opens them again, he grumbles that entering memories is always way too bright, and jokes that he needs sunglasses next time. The memory starts with a huge rainbow birthday cake. Then her parents and brother happily congratulate her. Cal stands there smiling, wondering if that really is the girl's family. Then he realizes he doesn't even see her. A moment later, the girl's mother looks around in annoyance and asks where the food is. She's actually in the kitchen, apologizing while rushing to finish chopping vegetables. The little brother complains to the father that his sister bought blue soda, but he wanted red. Still focused on his phone, the father asks if they're not basically the same. The boy throws a fit and insists they're different. Then he starts screaming that he wants the red one. When the girl walks in with food, her brother splashes soda in her face and blames her. Caught off guard, she tries to protect the plate she's carrying. She just stands there in silence as the soda runs down her face and shirt. Her mother snaps at her for freezing up and orders her to buy the right soda and clean the mess. When the girl still doesn't respond, her mother says the brother only got mad because she bought the wrong drink, so she deserves it. Still staring in disbelief, she finally gives in and says she understands. Then she storms out, slamming the door behind her. After watching all of that, Cao's expression turns serious. The memory shifts to a snowy night outside a 24-hour convenience store. Xiaoyu walks out carrying a bag. Inside is only the red soda her brother wanted. She also has the change in her other hand. Xiaoyu clenches the coins tightly in anger. Then she suddenly turns back toward the store. Snow keeps falling under the streetlight. The next moment, she's in a plaza on that snowy night. A match is struck, and then a candle lights up. Kneeling by a bench, Xiaoyu quietly says it finally lit. In front of her is a small tart with one candle, and she sings happy birthday to herself. Smiling, she leans in to eat it. From a distance, Sao watches her. She tells herself to make a wish. Save enough for college, get a good job, and own a house. Hands together, she repeats that she wants a real home. Sao keeps watching in silence, his face growing heavy. A few seconds later, she blows out the candle, and the light goes dark. The system gives him a new mission. Celebrate Xiaoyu's birthday. Difficulty D. Cao gently puts a hand on the zombie girl's head. He says that mission or not, he would have made her a cake anyway. Then he wonders why his host only ever got a tiny birthday cake. He decides that even in the apocalypse, she's getting a real party. After that, they spend time messing around in a store. He pushes her in a shopping cart while she happily stuffs herself with sweets. She's way too strong for one toy and breaks it, then starts using toy gum to pop at cute animals. Later, she dances in a silly outfit with a huge inflatable mascot and drools over some cotton candy. She even gets a haircut from the other zombie girl. Then she picks out new clothes and gives herself a pretty new look. Pleased with the result, Cao and Yunji hold up scorecards with perfect 10s. Not long after, Cao shows up dressed like a giant red chicken. Xiaoyu is so shocked she drops her scorecard, while Yunji angrily throws hers down. As Cao checks things over, the zombie girl raises a knife like she's about to take a bite out of him. Then they head to a photo booth. The two zombie girls step inside with their usual blank faces. Not wanting to miss the picture, Cao squeezes in too and crushes them together. Yunji grabs his head and shoves it into the camera, leaving him miserable. When the photos print, every shot comes out hilarious with his face smashed against the edge. Outside, Xiaoyu looks over the fresh photos. Even with her blank stare, it seems like she's thinking hard about something. Kyo calls out and tells her to stop spacing out. They need to go. She turns around and runs after them. Kyo warns Yunji not to grab that cake since it's been sitting there for 2 months after the apocalypse started. Then he explains they're here because they're going to bake one themselves. He figures that once the cake is done, Xiaoyu's loyalty should rise a lot. They gather all the ingredients they need for the cake, plus a recipe book. Kyo asks Yunji for eggs, but when they fly past him and smash against the wall, he decides to grab them himself. Then he notices Yunji holding a sack of flour over her head, ready to dump it into the bowl. She looks annoyed that he's criticizing her great work, so he decides it's safer if she takes a break. Even Chao does a terrible job. He drops shell into the mix, pours in a full kilo of sugar, and adds way too much water. After struggling for a while, he admits it was silly to think he could bake a cake by himself. Then he remembers what he saw in Xiaoyu's memory, her sitting alone by that bench, and gives a small smile. Stretching a bit, he says he'll keep trying until he gets it right. After what feels like 100 years, really just 6 or 7 tries, Kev finally stands there proudly, with perfect cake batter. Happy with himself, he heads for the door and thinks all that's left is baking it. He's relieved the generator is ready, and with his hand on the plug, he figures he just needs to power the whole store, so he plugs the cable into the outlet. The second the power comes on, a loud sound blasts out, and music fills the air. He immediately gets uneasy when he realizes the store is linked to a sound system. The music starts booming from the speakers outside, and every zombie nearby turns toward the store. Our boy starts freaking out because he knows exactly what's coming. A huge swarm of zombies rushes toward the music, charging straight for the sound. He yanks the power cable out of the socket right away. Holding the cord, Xiao says they got careless. He tells everyone to get ready, and Xiao Yu, now changed into her new outfit, runs into place. Looking at her, our boy says she won't have to fight today. He summons his sword and tells Xiao Yu to leave this to him and Yunji. Then he adds that company policy says employees get their birthday off. He tells Yunji to handle the zombies inside while he goes to shut the door. Yunji jumps into action and starts taking down zombies at once. Sao dashes for the door and sees even more zombies still pouring in. The second he shuts it, the zombies slam into it. Annoyed, he wonders why they had to cause trouble today of all days. Then he notices Yunji fighting with a tool she definitely shouldn't be using. He shouts that it was for the cake, not for smashing zombies. She reaches for another item on the counter, but our hero stops her again and says that one's not a weapon either. He tells her to put it back, and the system reports it stopped an employee from trying to attack the boss. All he can think is that he spent hours making that. Still totally blank-faced, Yunji starts hurling plates and silverware like weapons. Her throws are crazy strong, and she nails zombie after zombie with those plates. Meanwhile, Cao thinks just baking a cake like this feels a little boring. A moment later, he comes up with a great idea. He tells Yunji to take Xiao Yu to the top floor and says he'll meet them there soon. Yunji waves and takes Xiao Yu's hand. Before they go, he calls out to Xiao Yu and tells her to close her eyes and wait once she gets upstairs. Then the two girls run to the top of the building. Cao looks over the street, spots several stopped cars and a big truck, and says he's got the perfect plan. Sometime later, he smiles and says the cake is done and everything's set. The system pulls up Yunji's status window and shows that collaborative work mode has been activated with her. He'd never used this mode with Yunji before. With the cake in one hand, he gets ready to sprint. As he takes off running, he realizes this feels totally different from working with Xiao Yu. With Yunji, the link feels calm and sharp. Seeing the crowd of zombies ahead, he tells himself he can do this. He runs over zombie faces with the cake in hand, swearing no one is stopping him from delivering it. Then he yells even louder. No one is stopping her from eating her cake. While dodging an attack, he says nobody gets to make her wait any longer. He's determined to get that cake to her now. Then he tosses the cake into the air. In the same move, he swings his sword and cuts down a mass of zombies before the cake drops. A second later, he catches it cleanly and steadies it in his hand. Up on the roof, Yunji keeps fighting off zombies by herself. Xiao Yu stays in the corner, only watching. Following her boss's order, she closes her eyes with that same blank stare. Cao thinks that even if this burns a lot of fuel, making his employee happy matters more. He has set up several candles with a trail of gasoline. In the end, he throws a lit birthday candle behind him. Then he calls for Xiao Yu to open her eyes. Still focused, she slowly begins to open them. At that exact moment, the candle flies toward the gasoline trail. The instant the flame touches it, a massive explosion erupts. The whole street lights up as fireworks blast in every direction. Smiling and shouting, Cao says it's her gift, limited edition apocalypse birthday fireworks. Xiao Yu stares at the bright colors, eyes wide with shock. Even Yunji stops to watch, still holding a zombie in her hands. Cao runs over with the cake and tells Xiao Yu the frosting spread out pretty well. Showing it to her, he promises that as long as he's alive, he'll always bake her a birthday cake. Then he asks her to make a wish, but the girl suddenly asks for a smile. Our hero starts singing happy birthday as the candle flames go out. The system says Xiao Yu thinks the cake tastes weird, but she's kind enough not to mention it. Elsewhere, we learn Sanhoi Shore has grown a lot in recent years, mostly because of top-level industry. As the economy grew, the old city was turned into housing, and industry got moved to a new city. But after the outbreak, the easy resources were mostly scraps, so our hero decided to head to the old city. We get a quick recap. It's been a month and a half, and he's already cleared 89 of his 100 missions. Then, a little boy calls out from behind him. The boy asks about the bridge, and we're told his name is Ho Yen. Seo met him by the river a few days earlier. Now he says the bridge is broken, so they can't cross it, not even with a rope. After that, we return to the place where Ho Yen's group is staying for now. This is the leader of Ho Yen's group, and our hero has been working with him since they met. The leader thanks him for the update, and our boy asks whether they found anything useful. Another man says he found a boat by the river. Surprised, Seo asks if it's damaged. The man says it's a cruise ship. The engine looks fine, but it's out of fuel, so now they need gas, and the base only has enough supplies for 2 or 3 more days. The leader grins and asks if Tiao can handle it, since he and his cute helpers are strong, while the rest would only slow things down. Tiao says he knows the leader is really trying to save energy for getting everyone to the boat, and between them, he could just say that. The leader laughs, says our hero is very direct, and adds that the reward will make it worth it. As he leaves, Cao tells him to keep moving supplies to the boat, because the fuel job should be done by night. Passing the zombie girls, he calls out that they're heading out. Hoyan watches from afar, clearly curious. Then he tells our hero to wait because he's coming too. With a tired look, our hero thinks that the longer he survives in the apocalypse, the more annoying people get. Later, they arrive at a gas station packed with zombies. Xiaoyu charges in first, her fist glowing with red energy as she attacks. She lets the power burst out and engulfs the zombies in front of her. The hit tears across the ground and blasts several zombies into the air, nearly burning them up. The system announces that Xiaoyu gained a skill called Heavy Cleaver, which boosts her fighting power a lot, but has a fixed cooldown. Watching proudly, our boy says this new skill is just as impressive as her first one. Hoyan is stunned by Xiaoyu's strength and asks if it's kung fu, and whether she can teach him. Cao grabs him by the shirt, asks why he'd even want that, and tells him to hurry since they need the fuel. Meanwhile, the zombie girls keep fighting to clear the station. He heads into the station store, says he'll check inside first, and tells the boy to look for anything useful. The boy praises Cao, saying he's really kind, and that this is the first time he's seen someone willingly jump into danger during the apocalypse. Cao says he's a businessman, he helps people, they pay him back, and that has nothing to do with kindness. The boy argues that it is kindness, because someone as strong as Cao could just take what he wanted, instead of going through all this. Our hero asks if he really believes that. He says even he doesn't, and it's amazing Hoyan has lived this long. Cao starts thinking that even though the kid talks too much, he's already proven he's observant, and gets things done. Then he gives the boy a small smile, and says he's glad he survived. The boy, who had been so serious, smiles with his eyes closed, and says he's glad to be alive too. Then he adds he's even happier he didn't dig his own grave. Cao says he doesn't get that part, so the boy quickly lies and says he actually called Cao handsome. At that point, our hero is genuinely starting to get annoyed by all the talking. To get rid of him for a bit, he points out an overturned car by the entrance and tells him to check the gas tank. The boy salutes right away and says he understands, while our hero looks forward to a little peace and quiet. Outside, the boy spots the flipped car and realizes he'll have to climb it first. He sets down the gas can and starts climbing up the back. Under the car, a zombie hand reaches out near his feet. Then the zombie's head starts sliding out, while the boy keeps climbing, not noticing a thing. Suddenly he screams and falls against a metal grate with a nasty creak. The grate is rotten, and it can't support his weight. Before he can drop, Cao grabs him by the foot and sarcastically tells him he's being very careful. Shaking, the boy warns him that there are zombies under the car and tells him to be careful. Cao curses and asks why he's worrying about other people right now. Then he says he already handled the one under the car, but there's still another huge one around. The boy asks how huge, while the zombie girls keep fighting at the station. Then a massive mutant zombie appears on top of the gas station. It moves, and smoke pours from holes in its body. Next it turns toward the girls, with flames glowing behind it. The boy looks up in terror and asks what that thing is. The giant mutant zombie leaps down and gets ready to attack. Its fist charges up, then fires a huge blast at them. Xiao Yushe slips past the blast without much trouble, but the mutant is already right on top of her. It fires again. She dodges, but this blast is headed straight for the gas pumps. Cao sees where it's going and panics. He snatches up the boy and jumps, trying to outrun the blast. The attack hits the pump, and the whole place erupts. A few seconds later, Cao asks if the boy is okay. The kid shakily says yes. Still rattled, he asks what they're supposed to do now. The zombie is way too strong. Cao agrees. If this keeps up, they're done for. Then he gets up and tells Hotan to leave first. When the boy hesitates, Cao tells him not to worry. If he stays, he'll only slow them down. The boy gets it, takes the fuel they found and says he'll get things ready. Even as he leaves, he keeps saying he'll wait for Cao. Sword in hand, Cao takes a breath and readies himself. Then he jumps back into the fight. A second later, all three rush the mutant zombie together. The thing is huge, and it handles all three at once surprisingly well. Even Cao is caught off guard that it can block every attack at the same time. When Cao attacks from behind, the zombie blows smoke right into his face. Then it grins and ignites that smoke in front of him. Xiaoyu tries to recover, but one of her arms is hurt. Yanji is also struggling to steady herself after the blast. The boy realizes this mutant is far stronger than the others. Things look bad, and at this rate they'll lose. Staring at the monster, Cao decides he at least needs to take one of its arms. Back at camp, the boat is waiting at the dock. Someone reports that the fuel is already loaded, and the camp has been signaled. Hoyan is pleased. Now they just need everyone on board, and for Cao to finish that giant mutant zombie. The gang leader pauses and asks, "What mutant zombie?" From the boat, they look toward shore and spot thick smoke rising. Looking closer, they see Cao and the others running from the mutant zombie. Hoyan smiles and tells the leader Cao is coming back. The leader turns away, looking thoughtful. Meanwhile, Cao's group keeps running from the mutant. Now it's missing an arm, but it grabs a regular zombie with its other hand. Then it presses that zombie onto the spot where its lost arm used to be. The body starts to fuse with it, rebuilding the arm. Cow figures it's the type that can merge with other zombies. At least there aren't many around it right now, so all they need to do now is reach the boat. Then he finally looks out to sea and spots the boat far away. He lets out a breath, his voice shaking. They really left him behind. At that moment, the system marks the B-rank mission to escort the commissioner to the boat as complete. KO goes quiet for a moment. After thinking it over, he calls the zombie girls and orders Tactic C. Then he starts shouting, cursing loudly to pull the mutant's attention onto himself. For a moment, the two just stare each other down. The mutant loses patience first and leaps at KO. Yenji catches the opening and throws something at it. Her throw lands right in the giant's chest. At the same time, Xiaoyu drops in from above with her weapon ready. The monster barely manages to block with its arm. Then a split suddenly opens on its shoulder. An eye opens there. KO doesn't give it a second to recover, and swings for the other arm. As he glances at the boat, he thinks about trusting those same lies and fake teamwork again. His rage spills into every strike as he remembers false friendships and how the world always works this way. After bringing the monster down, he thinks he's sick of all of it. Then he hears something behind him, turns around, and sees a zombie horde chasing people. They're screaming that the boat left without them, that they're doomed now, and begging KO to save them. One man gets caught by a zombie while crying out a name. KO watches with cold eyes and says he doesn't want to help. Another survivor is left behind, and the zombies swarm over him. In Greek myth, Sisyphus is forced to push a boulder up a mountain forever, only for it to roll back down every time. KO refuses to become like Sisyphus. Then the system gives him a new C-rank mission, Protect Me. Right after that, countless more windows pop up with the exact same mission. KO stops and wonders, if he saves them now, what happens next time? Maybe they'll run out of food, maybe they'll get sick, maybe they'll be betrayed again. The rock will never stay at the top. Just then, a girl gets surrounded and begs anyone to help her. Her cries only get louder. KO finally moves, jumping in with his sword to cut down the two zombies closing in on her. Curled up with her eyes shut, the girl had already given up, but now she peeks to see what happened. What she finds is KO standing in front of her, expressionless as he cuts through zombies. Even while fighting them off, KO wonders what he's doing. His body moved to save her before his mind caught up. He already knows none of this will really fix anything. Then two more zombies rush him with wide mouths and hungry eyes. Before they can reach him, the zombie girls tear into them. A moment later, they're back in sync, dropping zombie after zombie. Still lost in thought, KO quietly says, "So that's how it is." Thinking of Zhong, he starts to understand him, and remembers those cruel words about useless trash belonging in the garbage. He reflects that once humans gain power and wealth, they start believing they're above other lives, and lose their empathy. Then Zhong comes to mind again, and KO vows he almost became like him, but never will. The girl notices KO zoning out and warns him there's a monster behind him. The giant mutant with an eye on its shoulder rises from the rubble. As it climbs out, it roars with full force. Smiling, KO calls for the zombie girls. They charge in again. The mutant charges too. The two girls leap together for another combo attack. Moving like one, they come down with heavy kicks aimed at the monster. At the same time, KO throws a rope, and it loops cleanly around the creature's wrist. Then he jumps in with his sword, going for a killing blow. The eye on its shoulder seems to lock onto KO. This time, the arm blocks his strike. The instant that happens, KO shouts for Xiaoyu. She rushes in, charging up her heavy slash through her fist. Jumping behind the monster, she unleashes the blow and splits the beast in two. As it falls again, KO thinks that even in a world like this, and even with power beyond normal people, he still wants to live as a human. One of the survivors suddenly points at the sea, smiling and telling everyone to look. The boat is heading back toward them. Inside it, the boy is shouting Teo's name. About 10 minutes earlier, someone had gone to the gang leader and said there was a problem with the boat. The leader told the boy to deal with it, whatever it was. Then Huo Am stepped in with a pistol, saying he was handling the problem right now. A sudden burst of 3 gunshots follows. Another survivor runs over after hearing them and asks what happened. When he sees the scene, he blurts out that Huo Am just got rid of their leader. The boy fires back. Could trash like that even count as a leader? Still stunned, the man asks what he's talking about. The boy says the leader abandoned the group because of the zombies today, and tomorrow he'd do the same to them again. If they keep living like this, they have no chance to survive. Then he smiles and says that with KO, at least they do have a chance. Back in the present, the boat heads toward the dock. The boy jokes that he still can't believe the leader somehow slipped into the water, and Ho-Am says neither can he. KO is glad he convinced them to come back, and Ho-Am says they were only scared of the leader, they never wanted to abandon everyone. Grinning, Ho-Am turns to the other survivor and asks if that's the truth. Sweating and way too loud, the man quickly says yes, exactly. Kel says Ho-Am has grown up, then asks if that earns him some kind of reward. The boy says sure, he'll give KO one of his precious lunches. Later, KO is back to cutting down zombies with his sword. Now he's leading a group of survivors through the city. After reaching the old city by boat, they found survivors who had left their hideout to look for help. Kao chose to help them, so he joined them. Looking ahead, the boy spots smoke behind a building and guesses that's the camp they mentioned. He figures that's where the person who can cure bitten humans is, and some of their people are infected. Some of them were bitten. Kao doesn't really buy the cure story, but even a small chance is still a chance, and if it fails, at least he can help end their pain. A mutant zombie drops right in front of them. The survivors point at it in panic. Another mutant. That makes 3 already. The boy realizes that the longer this apocalypse drags on, the more mutant zombies keep showing up. Kao tells Huoyam and Yenji to lead the group toward the smoke, while he and Xiao Yu stay behind to cover them. The two-headed mutant lets out a roar and gets ready to strike. Then a huge crash slams into the middle of the city, throwing up a cloud of dust. Gunfire hits the ground right in front of Huoyam. He freezes, teeth clenched in fear. The shot leaves a massive hole in the ground. A camp survivor yells that they haven't gotten orders, so no one is allowed in. He warns them that if they force their way inside, he'll shoot. While cutting down a zombie, Huoyam shouts that they mean no harm, they just need shelter from the undead. The guard says the leader isn't here, and he has no power to open the camp, especially with so many zombies nearby. Chao steps in and says he'll deal with the zombies if he has to. They just need to be let in first. The guard answers that if they wipe out the zombies, he'll open the gate, but if they try to break in, he'll shoot. Xiao Yu thinks that, honestly, his logic isn't wrong. Kao decides it's simple enough. They just have to clear every zombie here, so he activates cooperative work mode with Yenji. He tosses Yenji a rope and says they're using tactical Operation Coral. She snatches it out of the air. Using the rope Kao gave her, the girl moves through the zombie crowd with ease. Kao warns everyone to move aside. If they can't run, then duck. Huyen grits his teeth, realizing what's coming, and helps one of the survivors. Then he and Ganji, each holding one end of the rope, circle the whole zombie pack and race toward each other. As they close in, it becomes clear they've wrapped the entire horde inside one giant loop. They pass each other, tightening the rope and bunching the zombies closer together. That's when Chao shouts to Xiao Yu that it's her turn. She starts building up energy, then launches forward with full force. Her feet slam down, and she uses heavy slash and kick form. A huge red line of energy blasts from her kick toward the trapped zombies. The attack slices perfectly across the heads of every zombie inside the coral. When the dust clears, Xiao sees the whole horde down on the ground. But when he looks back, even more zombies are rushing their way. He steadies himself and warns everyone that there are still plenty left. Xiao notices both girls have been fighting non-stop since they crossed the river, and they must be exhausted. But there's no other choice. The zombies keep coming in insane numbers. Xiao steps up with his sword ready. Suddenly, a different kind of monster leaps in from behind him and crashes down hard enough to blast a huge crater into the ground. Then another one lands in the same spot, kicking up more dust with another heavy impact. Soon these new zombies start tearing into the regular ones, throwing everything into chaos. Watching this, Kao realizes these creatures are a type he's never seen before. In the middle of that mess, 3 people in biohazard suits say the results look good for a first real battle test. One of them walks up to a girl and asks if she's hurt. She points to a small wound and says it's only a scratch. The person in the suit says that even a bite wouldn't matter. They've already made a cure, and everyone will get food and rest. Seo looks at him and asks if he's the camp leader, then thanks him for helping them. The man behind the helmet says Seo is too kind, and that he actually owes him. That answer only makes Kao more suspicious. He has no idea what the man means. Then, Kao sees his old friend Zhang greet him, saying it's been a long time. A hand yanks a boy by the hair and asks if he's got a death wish. Another boy presses his foot onto the kid's face, demanding money for cigarettes while the victim begs him to stop. The blonde guy says this isn't about the money, it's the boy's attitude. The kid keeps apologizing, but the blonde boy doesn't care if it happens again or not. He just wants to enjoy himself now. Then the boy on the floor suddenly pees on the blonde guy's knees. The blonde guy notices and loses it, yelling about how disgusting it is. At that moment, someone else finishes peeing too. Kao, 17 years old, tells the blonde guy that it's over and to leave the kid alone. The blondie snaps back that it's not over at all. The kid peed on him, and now he's going to send him straight to hell. Before he can move, a stall door slams right into his face, and another student steps out. Kao hears the toilet flush and stares at the guy who just walked out of the stall. The other boys in the bathroom go pale after seeing that. The new guy looks at them and says now the noise makes sense. It was just a bunch of rats in the bathroom. Then he turns to Kao and asks if he needs help. Kao says yes, then asks if he can fight. Lying on the floor with a swollen face, the blonde guy screams at his friends, asking what they're waiting for. The other two rush in with brooms in hand, yelling as they charge. Kao and his new blonde ally charge at them too. From outside, more shouts ring out, telling them to get away from him. After a while, Kao and the other boy are still standing, while the rest sit beaten in front of the urinals. The kid who was getting bullied tearfully thanks them. Cao tells him it's over now and says he should go. Cao thanks his new friend and admits he might have lost alone. The other boy shrugs it off, saying he just can't pee with noise around. Cao says most people still would have run. The other boy answers that he wouldn't, and the two laugh. Then the boy introduces himself as Zhang from 2nd year class 3. Cao introduces himself too, 2nd year class 16. The two of them reach out to shake hands. Then they both remember they haven't washed up yet, and hurry to the sink first. Later on, they keep talking as they leave school, and little by little, they become close friends. They compete over grades, and end up liking the same games too. As they get older, the two are still side by side, each holding a phone, probably playing together. A few years later, they even go to the same university. There, Cao wins first place in the school's app development contest. Another memory shows the two of them dead tired on the subway, leaning on each other to rest. Later, night falls over the city. Then they're eating together at a restaurant. With his mouth full, Cao says his theoretical biology app was perfect, and the competition ruined everything. Now that it's over, he says he has to change it all over again. Zhang talks too, also with his mouth full. Zhang asks if Cao still plans to start a company. Cao says he wanted to, but things are bad at home, and he needs money for his mother's treatment. Then Cao asks how things are going with Zhang taking over his father's company. Zhang says not anymore. Cao asks why, since he was always good at managing people. After thinking for a moment, Zhang says Cao's app idea is really good and worth investing in. He suggests they build a company together. Cao makes the product, and he handles the business side. Zhang adds that he'll obviously be the one running administration. Cao smiles at the idea of working together again, and Zhang says they'll make it into the top 500. Happy with the plan, they clink their beer mugs together. They really do team up, build the app, bring in investors, and even create a pretty big company. Then the memory shifts to Cao being held back by a security guard, as he asks Zhang if they were ever truly friends. Zhang turns away without saying a word. After a pause, he says Cao is like the sun, someone who makes the people around him stronger. Then, turning to Xiaoyu, Zhang says his old friend is always positive and never quits, so he wants to see what happens this time. With a cruel look, he asks whether Cao will be able to rise again. On his knees, Cao watches Zhang and his assistant walk away, leaving him behind. Back in the present, the group finally reaches the base. Dong takes off his helmet and announces that they're back. People rush over cheering, asking if anyone was hurt and whether Zhang finally returned. A girl runs up crying, saying a little boy called her useless and told her she'd be thrown out sooner or later. Smiling, Zhang asks why he'd ever throw them out. He says the camp will depend on them when they grow up, so they should stop fighting and make up. Watching that, Cao remembers Zhang's nasty look and the words, "Trash belongs in the trash." An old woman asks if someone like her, who can't work, can stay too. Zhang tells her he'd never throw her out. Then he calls to everyone that new people are joining, so they should prepare food and water. Cao just stands there, stunned by everything happening around him. He remembers again how Zhang turned his back while the secretary told him to disappear. Cao turns away, thinking his former friend is full of lies. Annoyed, he calls out to Yamji and Xiaoyu. They're leaving. As Cao heads for the door, 2 notification chimes ring out. A system message appears. New mission, stay at the camp and wait for activation. The system calmly warns him he can't reject the mission. If he does, it'll drag him away in 30 seconds. Stunned, he has no idea what's happening. He wonders why the system suddenly gave him this mission, and why the penalty is way harsher than normal. One last thought hits him. Is the system helping him, or just messing with him? Then Ho Yin, who'd been calling him for half an hour, rushes over and shouts right into his ear. That finally snaps him out of it, and Ho Yin says they're taking the bodies to the exam room. He asks if Tao is coming too. Since the system won't let him leave anyway, Cao decides to go along and see where this leads. A moment later, he calls out to Zhang. Cao says he'll come with them just to take a look, and asks if that's a problem. The man smiles and says anyone can go in. The meditation room is open to everyone. He leaves out their past. They head into a temporary examination room. Inside, a man is strapped to a bed, screaming and fighting to get loose. A woman says his condition looks bad. He's probably entering the 3rd phase. Professor Khan orders a double dose and tells the girl to inject the stabilizer first, worried it could trigger a stress reaction. As he holds the syringe and tells her to get the patient's file ready, the man suddenly snaps one of the straps. Shocked, Zhang blurts out how he did that. The doctor barely gets a chance to turn around. Cao is already between him and the zombie. He slams it to the floor and asks if the doctor is okay. The doctor says he is. Even the secretary is stunned that Cao moved before anyone noticed. Then he asks Professor Xiaoyu if the man can still be saved. She says maybe, but only within an hour of entering the 3rd mutation stage. Cao tells them to hurry. At last, they inject the medicine into the man. After the shot, the patient slowly stops screaming. Startled, Cao asks if it really worked. Ahoy excitedly says it did. Even the man's skin color is back to normal. Cao stands there thinking humanity might actually have a chance. He also wonders if this is why the system forced him to stay. Later, outside the room, the professor thanks him and says he might have died if Cao hadn't stepped in. Cao smiles and brushes it off, but admits he still doesn't know who the professor is. Zhang shows up and says he never got to introduce them. When all this began, he had nowhere to stay and happened to meet the two of them. He explains that after the professors chose to stay in the city and work on a vaccine, they found this central lab. From there, they built the base and sometimes went out to bring in more survivors. Cao asks if the vaccine still isn't ready, and Zhang admits it doesn't even have a 50% success rate yet. That makes Cao think the mission might be tied to the vaccine. Zhang goes quiet for a few seconds, then calls out to Cao. He tries to talk about what happened before, but keeps stumbling over his words. After a tense pause, he suddenly blurts out that he's truly sorry. Caught off guard, Cao asks what he just said. Zhang says he's apologizing for what he did to Chao before, and admits he knows he's not someone Chao can trust. Chao starts to turn away and tells him to forget it. He knows he'll never forgive him. As he walks off, Chao tells him to stop the gross act, but Zhang stammers and begs him to wait. Zhang runs after him, insisting he means it. Then a little girl suddenly runs up, calling for Zhang. In tears, she asks if she'll get to see her mom, and whether she's okay. Zhang kneels and gently tells her that her mother is getting better, but still needs treatment. He promises they'll see each other again soon. Then he tells her to go play with the other kids, and she runs off happy. Watching that, Chao gives a sarcastic smile and asks what Zhang did to her mom. Did he throw her out just because she got sick? Zhang shuts his eyes and says the camp works this way because of the survivors themselves. He explains that everyone does what they're best at, and that's the only reason the camp can keep going. A lot of people volunteered after hearing about the vaccine, and the girl's mother was one of them. Zhang says vaccine testing is dangerous, but he wants to finish it fast, so people can live with their families again. He adds that he didn't truly understand Tao until he started researching the vaccine, and that's when he saw how narrow-minded he used to be. The people in the camp taught him that helping each other is the only way to survive another day. Before all this, he only cared about power and money, just like his father. The apocalypse made him realize how pointless those things really were. Filled with anger, he shouts that his old self was a complete idiot. He says he isn't apologizing to win Tao's forgiveness. He's saying it because he truly regrets what he did. Still unconvinced, Tao asks what he really wants. Desperate, Zhang says that's not what he meant. Tao tells him to drop the act and say what he's actually after. So Zhang finally tells the truth. Professor Cam used to work at the CDC. He explains the place is packed with zombies, and they've tried many times to get inside but failed. Now he wants to team up with Cao and recover the data still stored there. Then he bows and begs for Cao's help. He says they can only survive if they finish the vaccine. More than that, he wants this nightmare to end. Tao doesn't buy the act and calls him fake. Zhang insists he's serious and says he'll kneel if he has to, but Tao stops him. Instead, Zhang reaches out both hands and pleads for help. He says that whenever they work together, they could do anything. Tao admits Zhang is right about one thing. If people keep living like this, the world will end fast. Even if life never fully returns to normal, a vaccine could at least bring back some peace and give people a chance to recover. Tao thinks this may be why the system forced him to stay, and he also wants to know how they controlled the zombies. After thinking it over a little longer, he finally says he'll help his ex-friend. Zhang lights up and moves in for a hug, but Tao immediately tells him not to come any closer. Looking him straight in the eye, Tao says he has no plan to forgive him or make up with him. He's only doing this for the vaccine. Zhang says he understands and thanks Cao again. Sometime later, one person calls for everyone to get ready, and another says they're set. Then the system updates the mission. Recover the virus research data. The next morning, zombies are suddenly blasted into the air. A strange hairless creature charges around with its mouth wide open. It pins one zombie to the ground, while several others get thrown back. Watching from a distance, Tao asks what those two dog-like zombies are. Zhang says those two were the first step in their research. According to Professor Ken, they have some intelligence and can follow simple orders. During the research, chips were put in their brains, so if they disobey or try to hurt humans, they get shocked. He says this mission is extremely dangerous, then asks why Tao didn't leave the two women behind at camp to rest. Cao replies that they're his employees, and in a fight they're stronger than his zombies. Huoyan suddenly cuts in, calling them war machines, and Zhang jokes that Tao has been dealing with that kid since before the apocalypse. As Zhang looks at the girls, he thinks Huoyan might really be a promising little seedling. After running the rest of the way, the group reaches the Center for Disease Control. The professor says the files they need are on the 4th floor in the research department. They have no clue how many zombies are inside, so they'll need to avoid fighting. Someone asks if the professor made them a map before they came. Zhang says he did, but the building is huge, so that won't be enough. Then Cao spots a mass of zombies near the stairs. Glancing over, Xiao is surprised to see they brought binoculars. They talk through the best route to the 4th floor lab, and once the plan is set, Zhang says it's time to move. As they go, Xiao says that ever since entering the old city, he's noticed the zombies look different from the ones in the new city. Passing some on the ground, he points out how strange their color is here. Huo Yun adds that there are also more mutant zombies. Xiang explains that, according to the professor, zombies are less like undead and more like an evolved species. There are more kinds appearing every day, so they've split them into two groups, normal zombies and mutant zombies. Evolved zombies usually strengthen their own bodies, keep their original biology, and prefer live prey. The other kind is the fusion zombie, which seems to combine with other beings, comes in many shapes and sizes, and eats almost anything. Zhang says the guard zombies they made are fusion types, mixed from dogs and humans. It usually takes around 5 people to bring down an evolved zombie, while fusion ones can take anywhere from 1 to 10. He says evolved zombies scare him more because they're smarter, but in the end, the type doesn't really matter. All of them share the same weak points, UV light and the brain. With a pistol in hand, Zhang stops and says that's all the instructions. They've made it to the 3rd floor. He slowly opens the door and finds the room packed with zombies. Cal whispers for everyone to stay quiet and move slowly. Seeing this many zombies, he knows he can't protect everyone if things go wrong. They carefully make their way through the zombies, staying silent and watching for any sudden movement. One of the men thinks that if he'd known it would be this bad, he never would have come. If he gets back alive, he's transferring to logistics. He also tells himself that if he survives, he can brag to Xiao Yumei and the others. Maybe then she'll finally notice him. Lost in thought, he lets the tip of his weapon tap the wall. The zombies instantly turn his way, and Cal shouts that they're done for, and tells him to run. Huoen quickly says they can draw the zombies to the research lab on the 3rd floor, on the opposite side. There's also an emergency stairway there. Kyo tosses an alarm clock to Yunji and tells her to pull the zombies to the right side of the hall. They'll meet again on the 4th floor. The system notes that Yunji actually likes this kind of dangerous job. She turns on the alarm right away, and the monsters start looking toward her. Xiao Yu and Hoan take off running, calling out that they'll see her later. She sprints away with the ringing clock in her hands. At last, they reach the 4th floor. They rush in and shut the door. Hoan warns they can't keep this up for long. Xiao Yu asks Zhang what the plan is now. Zhang says our hero and Huoan should head to the research lab at the end of the department. With a grin, our hero asks if he really trusts them that much. Zhang smiles and says that's his way of showing he's sincere. A few seconds pass in silence. Then Cao turns to Huoan and tells him to move, catching the boy off guard. They go inside and tell Xiao Yu to guard the door. As they search through the files, Cao asks about Huoan's leg, and Huoan says it's nothing serious. Then our hero asks what he thinks about Zhang. Huoan asks why he wants to know. Cao says Zhang seems pretty reliable, and running a camp that big isn't easy. Huoan answers that something is definitely off about Zhang. He feels like an older version of Cao. Clearly annoyed, Cao snaps at him for comparing him to Zhang. Then he drops it, and tells Huoan to hurry and find the documents, since they don't know how much time they have left. A moment later, Huoan and Sao both look up from their folders and say at nearly the same time that they found it. Back at the door, Zhang's group waits for them. Huoan comes back shouting that they got the documents. Zhang smiles, saying he didn't expect things to go this smoothly. Sao lifts the backpack and says they got all the files. Zhang is stunned. He thought only a few would still be there. He grabs one of the books and asks if they're sure these are the right ones. Tao hands one over and says the serial numbers all match, so there shouldn't be any mistake. The man says that's good enough, and they can head back. Then, a small tremor makes him pause. Tao first thinks it's the walls, but then realizes the shaking is coming from the ground. A second later, the floor bursts apart and sends everyone flying. Tao manages to yell for Huoan to protect his head. Our hero wonders if Yanji caused this, and if she found the strong enemy he sensed. He spots the girl in front of him and asks if this is the enemy. Then he sees a mass that looks like several zombies fused into one and wonders what that thing even is. Chao studies the creature and says it's insanely strong, so they need to kill it fast. He tells Yunji, who's holding a stone over her head, to aim for its face. She hurls the stone at the zombie while it struggles to pull an iron bar from its chest. It finally tears the metal out. A huge cloud of dust rises at once. Sao says if they'd come any later, the fusion would have already been complete. What appears next is a new zombie type, with 3 heads and 6 arms. Zhang immediately orders his 2 experiments to attack it. The 2 experiments launch themselves at the monster. The creature easily catches one of them with 3 of its hands. In the next instant, it crushes that one, and destroys the other 2. Sao turns on collaboration mode, and orders his zombie girls to attack, not letting it get any closer to the others. Xiao Yu quickly leaps onto the new creature, but one of its mouths opens, and lets out a horrible scream. Then it rushes forward at incredible speed. Less than a second later, it's already beside Xiao. It slams a heavy hit right into his face. The blow sends our hero flying several meters. He says he barely got his guard up in time and can't believe something that big is this fast. He hasn't even recovered when it's already over him again. mouth wide open. This time, Yunji rushes in with a chunk of stone and smashes it from the side. Her hit is strong enough to send the creature crashing into the opposite wall. Xiao knows the monster is too strong and he needs to focus, but the others are still here, so he calls out to Zhang, who's helping the other survivors. Our hero tells them to leave first. He doesn't want Huoyan dying here. Zhang refuses, saying there's no way he's leaving first. With his sword on his back, our hero tells Zhang to go now and stop holding up the vaccine. He says he won't let himself get dragged out of there. The man stares at his friend for a few tense seconds. In the end, Zhang accepts his choice and tells him to come back soon. After a while, Xiao sees they've finally gone and says he doesn't want them to witness what comes next. Yunji throws something at the creature again. Then Xiaoyu drives a full power strike into its chest. A moment later, the damage from Yunji and Xiaoyu starts healing. The creature screams again. Xiao thinks it recovers way too fast. They need one overwhelming hit to bring it down. He sees that Yun's arm is hurt, so she can't throw stones anymore, and Xiaoyu's cooldown is too long. Fei Wu thinks hard and seems to come up with a way around Xiaoyu's cooldown. Then he closes his eyes and says they have to try it. He shouts for Xiaoyu to use Violent War God and Heavy Slash at the same time. The zombie girl obeys at once and activates both skills. A huge red glow starts pouring off Xiaoyu's body. Then she starts coughing, like the strain is tearing her up. Qiao tells her not to push too hard and to get out fast. Even so, the zombie girl lands a strike that tears a huge hole through the mutant's body. The mutant starts healing almost right away. Qiao sees the attack worked, but not enough. Then he notices her stance and wonders if she can already use the move again. He starts thinking that while Violent War God is active, her other skill might not have any cooldown. The girl doesn't hesitate and attacks again in a wild rush. Qiao is stunned by how much damage she's doing. She keeps hammering the creature without stopping. A crack forms in the floor, then spreads at a dangerous speed. The floor can't take it anymore and explodes apart. Seconds later, she's standing on top of the rubble. Even after all that, her face stays as blank as ever. Sei says Xiaoyu went way too far, and now the whole building is about to collapse. He calls for both girls to leave, but then he notices Xiaoyu has collapsed. He says she passed out from exhaustion after that combo. The energy cost is just too high. He adds that Yunji's arm is hurt, so she can't help much, and saving herself matters most right now. The system reports that Yunji refuses to leave her companions behind. Xiao shuts that down immediately, saying it's an order. Looking straight into Yunji's blank eyes, he tells her to trust him. She stands there staring at him for a few seconds, then finally obeys and runs off. Only then does our boy let out a breath of relief. He decides to switch Xiaoyu's collaboration mode to Yanji, saying he already tested it, and it only needs them to be at least a kilometer apart to work. The system confirms the collaboration mode switch was successful. Then the boy starts to run. Part of the ceiling starts crashing down around Xiaoyu, who's lying on a rock in front of him. The ground gives way, and Xiaoyu starts sliding into the hole. As she falls, Qiao dives after her. Mid-air, he catches her hand. With his free hand, he grabs a pipe. Now he's hanging there, one hand holding Xiaoyu, the other gripping the pipe. She starts to wake a little, and he notices. Smiling, our hero tells her he caught her, so she doesn't need to worry. He promises he'll never let her go. Then he admits this isn't the best time to talk. He lets go of the pipe, pulls the girl into his arms, and says they need to get out of there. They hit the ground in a burst of dust. Then the boy starts running at amazing speed with Xiaoyu in his arms. He tears down the stairs through the ruined building. As he races for the exit, the ceiling keeps collapsing around them. He focuses and says they're almost there. Then the door comes into view, and the light outside gets closer. Suddenly he wakes up in a bed wrapped in bandages. He groans about how much it hurts to wake up like this. Huaiyan stands at the foot of the bed and says it's been 2 days since Zhong got back and found him carrying Xiaoyu out of the building. Ko suddenly remembers and asks how Xiaoyu and Yanji are doing. Huaiyan says both girls are fine and outside. Our hero asks if they were examined, then realizes how careless that was. If anyone checked them, the secret that they're zombies would have come out. The boy smiles back and says nothing. He tells him not to worry. He kept the doctor away from the girls, since Ko was hurt much worse. Then Huoyan says that if Ko still has this much energy, he'll be fine, and heads off to help in another part of the camp. Ko smiles and thanks Huoyan. On his way out, Huoyan says there's no need for thanks between them. Once the door shuts, Ko stays quiet. After thinking for a bit, he finally relaxes. Yanji and Xiaoyu weren't exposed, and their injuries aren't too bad. Then he pulls up the system window. He starts checking the mission rewards and everything else he got. The system says Xiaoyu's loyalty to the company has reached 99, and his next roulette spin will give him a memory fragment. A prompt appears, asking if he wants to start the roulette spin. He accepts it right away. That confirms it. Once loyalty hits a certain level, he gets a memory fragment. He wonders if the system wanted to show him what happens when an employee's loyalty gets maxed out. Then he decides it doesn't matter. He touches the memory fragment. A bright light flashes, and a voice says all they need is internet access. The voice explains that augmented reality, virtual reality, and 3D can combine into one virtual world. It's not just an app, it could open a whole new future for games and more. Our boy finds himself standing in front of a door. He cracks it open and hears someone say the project has risks, but they're worth taking because the company already poured everything into it. The speaker tells the crowd they need to be honest. The pay will only be minimum wage, but the rest of their reward will be company stock, and anyone who joins will get a big share. He looks up, stunned. Then his other self says he hopes everyone will trust him. He asks them to work hard together and help the company succeed. Some people cheer and say they want in. That other version of him starts crying and promises he won't let his employees down. Tio realizes that if this is Xiaoyu's memory fragment, she must have been there at the time. Then he spots her in the crowd, smiling at that other version of him. He can't understand why he has no memory of this. The memory shifts to a room full of workers, and he wonders if Xiaoyu was part of the project team too. At last, he finds her, and remembers she was a new admin hire. Back then, he was so busy he never even met her. He remembers the project started off smoothly. Then the partner companies sent terrible equipment, and the whole project stalled. He knows the problem could have been fixed, but the other directors chose to shut the project down. Not long after that, he went with Zhong to negotiate. In the memory, he tells Zhong that if they agree, they can sign with another supplier and get results fast. A man notices Cao at the door and asks what he's doing there. The man says the decision to stop the project is already final, but Cao asks for a few minutes to explain. He says cloud gaming is already at 70%, and if they begin now, they can take off in the next few years. Tio keeps going, sharing his dream of building a whole new world with today's tech, the metaverse. Our girl adds that this is the company's foundation. If they just fix the supply problem, the future will be bright. One director turns to Zhong and asks if he agrees. They look at each other, and our boy gives him a nod. After a pause, Zhong says no. He supports suspending the project so the company won't lose more money. Shaking in shock, Cao asks what Zhong is talking about. Zhong says he never thought the company had gotten this bad, and blames it on trusting Cao too much. He bows to the board, says he caused huge losses, and keeps apologizing. One of the directors replies that if that's true, Zhong already knows what he needs to do. In that moment, the former Cao's eyes become the eyes of the current one. After the project failed, everyone started leaving. A woman screams that it's all Cao's fault. Because of him, she didn't review the first risk reports, and now she's jobless. Another man fires back, asking what risk reports matter when someone used 80% of the budget on a corrupt supplier. Shocked, our boy tries to say that's not what happened. Someone else yells that maybe he was a scammer from the start. Cao argues that he's not a scammer, and they all know that. Another man says he gave that job everything, and got nothing back, not even enough money to eat. As people pass by, they call him a horrible person. Then Zhong steps in and tells everyone he tried to persuade the directors but couldn't save Tao. He adds that the company is safe for now, and anyone who wants can return to their old jobs. The crowd starts thanking Zhong, cheering for how great and reliable he is. Off to the side, Xiaoyu stays silent, lost in thought. She drops her company badge and walks away. Then our hero is pulled out of Xiaoyu's memory fragment and returns to reality. Shaking with anger, he wonders if this was all his fault. Maybe he really did start the project too carelessly. He asks himself if he was the one who chose to pour all the money into it and cut off the company's cash flow. Cao keeps questioning everything. Was the project really hopeless? And did Zhong throw him away to save himself and call him trash? Then the system gives him a new mission. Go to the company and apologize to his former employees. He covers his face and starts to cry. Maybe it really was all because of him. Our boy leaves Xiaoyu's memory world completely. As it closes behind him, he lowers his head in sadness. When he touches the wall, the system tells him to head straight to the mission site and says a special effect will be active during it. His voice shakes as the effect hits. His body feels broken, and even his mind and heart feel worn down. He says he can't put this off anymore. He has to fix it and leave now. He tells Yanji to stay behind, wait for him, and keep herself safe. Then he admits he still feels like something is off about the camp. As he crosses the abandoned city, he says he hopes he's wrong about that place. After a long walk, he and Xiaoyu reach the doors of the company building. He can hardly believe he walked almost 10 hours while under that negative effect. Stopping at the logo, he says seeing that company name again leaves him with no idea how to feel. Inside, he says the system wants him to apologize to the employees, but there isn't a single body around, so he has no clue what to do. Some time passes as he searches through the company. He gathers a few things: a badge, a cup, a hair clip, and a cupcake. They belong to employees he knew, but he's not sure who stayed until the end, so he'll need to check the computer. Xiaoyu kicks open the general manager's door. The second it opens, Cao feels his body grow heavier. Something is in there. He hooks Zhong's computer up to his portable generator. A little later, the login screen appears and asks for a password. He laughs, saying he built the company's whole system himself. If Zhong thinks a few layers of security can stop him, he's way off. He pulls up the employee list and thinks about getting the mini printer running, but the number of layoffs after he left feels suspicious. Then he finds something odd and wonders what it is. Our hero uncovers a folder on Zhang's parents and is confused. Didn't Zhang hate his father? Curious, he opens the file and starts decrypting it. Inside are market reports, firing records, and risk reviews that don't match what he remembers. He also finds a file with the name of the company's corrupt supplier. There are videos and documents too, all tracking the company's equipment and the cancellation fees. Kao realizes the legal representative of that corrupt supplier is the same person as Zhang's secretary. That's when he remembers the supply issue was what got him pushed out, but Zhang was behind all of it. He recalls that even Xiao Yu, just an intern, got company shares. And it wasn't for the employees' sake, it had been a trap from the beginning. What they saw before was only a fake truth built on lies. Now he wonders if that's why the system brought him here, to reveal the truth. The weight of it all makes Kao drop to his knees. Feeling sick, he leans on the wall and tells Xiao Yu to give him the tablet. After the video finishes copying, he needs to watch it. He walks to the door with a terrible feeling. Outside, he sees a pile of bodies fused into one shapeless mass, covered in employee badges. It leaves him asking how things ended up this way. As he grabs his head, his mind floods with memories of those employees asking why this was happening to them. He realizes Zhang was after him from the start, and when he fell, all those workers were dragged down too. Crying out, he says they had nothing to do with it. Tears run down his face as he begs them to forgive him. Then, Xiao Yu brings him the tablet. On the video, someone asks if that thing still works. The person on the screen cheers that it still works, then introduces herself to our hero as Liu Suner. Liu says the team wanted to talk to him, but they couldn't get in touch, so they had to pass the message through Zhang. One man has just one thing to say: stop being so reckless. Another jumps in. Shocked Kao got fired so fast that he never even got the chance to find him and throw a punch. Then, a woman says she heard he was at the bank, begging for a loan. Another girl says her aunt works at the bank and might be able to help him, but that doesn't mean he's forgiven. She tells him to rebuild his life, pay them back, and not repeat the same mistakes. More people in the video urge him to get back up and make things right. They tell him not to give up, and Liu explains a lot of his old employees wanted to send him a message. Many admit they still haven't forgiven him, and with a shaking voice, Kao says he knows. He rests a hand on Xiao Yu's head and says he can't die here before earning that forgiveness. Kao adds that he still has unfinished business with Zhang. Leaning on the wall with a faint smile, he tells Xiao Yu to stay put. He'll face the monster by himself. As he opens the door, still smiling, he says he'll end this fast. The system announces that collaboration mode for Violent War God is now active. The fused mass of employees stands still, wearing a small tie. Kao pulls his sword and says it's time to let them finally rest. With his free hand, he shuts the door and leaves Xiao Yu inside. The mass suddenly lunges at him. Kao charges right back, sword first. He brings the blade straight down and splits the whole mass through the middle. Then he spots a badge with Li Kexing's name and remembers how they built the project's first framework together, staying late night after night. Clenching his teeth, Kao says he still owes him lunch. Then he swings again, this time in a wide horizontal cut. Another badge reads Zhong Wendai. Kao remembers how he used to tear up whenever they had to crush bugs, and wonders if he ever got that hair transplant. He remembers Xiu Zhong too, the guy who worked like a machine whenever inspiration hit, skipping food and sleep. Kao wonders if he kept taking his stomach medicine. As he strikes again, he thinks of Shu Ligo, who always brought coffee. He keeps cutting through the mass, remembering his workers one by one as their badges scatter away. Back then, everyone gave it everything they had. They were just one last step from making it. Rushing forward again, Kao thinks they really were only one small step away. He keeps slashing the mass again and again. Kao stares ahead, his face turning hard. As more badges drop, he apologizes to all of them. Then he reaches down and picks up one fallen badge. In the middle of the falling badges, he thanks them again. He lets out a small laugh and says their forgiveness and blessing are the reason he could come back as his real self. Xiao Ya slowly cracks the door open and peeks out at him. The system says she was worried and secretly chose to keep watch over him. He smiles at her and says he's okay. Then he tells Xiao Yao they still have a lot to do, printing pictures of everyone who worked on that project. A few hours later, a small grave marker stands with 2 sticks and a badge at the center. Across the grass, Kao has made simple graves using the badges and the belongings he gathered from his employees. He bows to them and asks them to rest in peace, promising never to forget. Then he says he truly hopes at least some of them survived. Something starts to glow. The system announces the first mission phase is complete, and the important items will be saved in the memo. One badge lights up first, then all of them. The system says they're being stored in the museum. Kao looks up and wonders if that place is the system's museum. He starts to think the museum may not just hold objects, but things that matter deeply to someone. Kao realizes joining the company must have meant a lot to them. He tells Xiao Yu that ever since the project collapsed, he's kept asking himself if he was a good boss. Now he feels like he finally has his answer, and he's chosen what kind of path he'll take next. But first, he'll carry everyone's hopes with him and finish things with Zhang. The system announces the next mission: settle matters with Zhang. Difficulty S. We jump back a bit. 2 hours after Cao left, the professor tells the camp the vaccine has finally been improved. He adds that experiments 1 and 2 were key to making it work. Zhang says after using up so much effort, it's time to see the final result. The professor says they should head to the test site, since only one step remains. Zhang looks down and repeats, "Yes, the final step." Then the professor and Zhang head out together, each carrying a briefcase. From a distance, Huowen hides and watches them. He remembers Cao warning him that the disease is coming back, so he's going out to find a cure. Cao also said something still felt wrong about Zhang, so Huowen should stay careful until he returns, and talk to Yanji if anything seems off. Watching them leave, Huowen wonders where they're going, and what this upgraded super vaccine really is. He decides this is his chance to sneak in and investigate. At the central air vent, a pair of hands removes the cover. Huowen drops inside and says he doesn't know how long they'll be gone, so he has to move fast. Looking around, he wonders where Professor Ken's office is. Suddenly, he hears people nearby asking if the door was locked right. The others answer that of course it was, and complain that being the last ones out always means no food is left. Huowen thinks the place is almost empty and starts to hurry, but then someone calls out to him. He turns and sees the professor staring straight at him. She asks what he's doing there. Huowen stiffens the moment he sees her. Before she can say more, he rushes over and clamps a hand over her mouth. Raising his knife, he apologizes and says she shouldn't have blocked his way. Then he drives the knife down at her, but the professor reacts fast and stops the strike aimed at her chest with her hand. Still expressionless, Huowen sees the attack was blocked and pulls the blade back. The professor asks where he wants to go and begs him not to kill her. She'll take him there. Huowen smiles and says so she does want to live. He thought she was the type who didn't fear death. She says she still has urgent things to do, so she can't die here. For a moment they just stare at each other. At last, Huowen lets out a sigh. He points the knife at her with a smile and tells her to lead the way. The professor asks what he's trying to find and says she already checked the computer and the shelves. With her hand wrapped up, she says there's nothing there except research files. Huowen answers that he's only checking the place out. He isn't after anything specific. She says she understands why he's worried, but insists the vaccine was made with care and improved through their work. As far as she's concerned, there's nothing shady about it. Then Huowen asks what happened to Xiaoyu's mother, remembering the little girl tearfully asking for her mom. The question clearly catches the professor off guard. She looks down sadly and says some of the last volunteers died from immune rejection, and Xiaoyu's mother was one of them. It happened so fast, she says, that the woman died before she could save her. Professor Ken had to handle the funeral because she couldn't do it herself. She tells Huowen she couldn't bring herself to tell the child the truth, but that doesn't mean Ken did anything wrong. According to her, the world is already broken enough. Why would she lie to him? Huowen looks at her and says she's way more suspicious than Ken. She has shelves full of books on viruses, disease, and human anatomy. Then, while standing by the bookshelf, something suddenly clicks in his mind. He asks why one book like that is mixed in with all the medical texts. When he opens it, a chip drops to the floor. He notices it right away, picks it up, and says that's where it was hidden. He even gives the professor credit for doing a good job. Huowen tells her he's borrowing the computer. Then, a video starts playing. In the recording, one person screams for a ventilator, while someone else tells another to hold on. He realizes it's footage from the experiments on Sanhui's mother, and wonders why they had to hide it. The professor insists again that there's nothing strange about any of this. Huowen smiles and asks if she really thinks normal test footage needs to be hidden, then tells her to keep watching. The video jumps, and a voice announces that the third combat trial is about to begin. A zombified woman appears, jaw clenched. Then zombies are released, and she gets ready to fight. The professor stares in horror and asks what she's looking at. Huowen asks how that woman could become a zombie if she was supposedly buried, and the professor keeps denying it, clearly shaken. He presses her again. If this was all for humanity, why were they running combat tests? He tells her they can just watch the footage, and asks if she still expects him to trust them after this. The woman can only stare at the screen in shock. Then he keeps working at the computer and asks why these files were hidden in the first place. The woman finally says that data from those experiments could save humanity. She remembers a man surrounded by zombies telling her to run, handing over the results, and saying this was their last hope. She keeps watching with her mouth open, as tears run down her face. Then she remembers an old man saying he was useless at his age, so he wanted to offer himself to science and the future of humanity. Now the tears pour down to her chin. The little girl's mother flashes through her mind, smiling and saying she trusted her. That breaks her. She bursts into tears and finally understands what the experiments were really for. Then she remembers the professor telling her to leave the little girl's mother's funeral to him. She clearly hears him again, saying they'd bury her in a good place and she didn't need to worry. She slams her fist on the table, swearing they fooled her this whole time. The boy just stands there, shocked by her response. She explains that whenever she reported a problem, the professor and Zhang acted strange and kept her away from the worst patients. After a deep breath, she tries to steady herself. Then she starts typing fast, and the boy asks what she's doing. With a hair tie between her teeth, she says that if they want to turn all those sacrifices into biological weapons, then she's going to wipe this place out for good, as she ties up her hair. The boy asks why not make a copy, since the vaccine still isn't finished, and she says she already saved the important data. Sure of herself, she says everything else she needs is in her head. Smiling a little, the boy tells her she's not his hostage anymore. She smiles back and says they're accomplices now. She says there's no time to waste. He'll burn the paper records while she deletes the files on the computer, and he agrees. Then a voice outside says it's weird the door won't open, and asks who's in there. Startled, Hoyan turns around and wonders if they've already come back. Someone desperately rattles the doorknob, and Zhang tells the professor that someone is inside and to break the door down. She tells Hoyan to hold the door. Once she hits delete, it'll all be over. He yells for her to hurry because he can't hold them off much longer. A second later, the door crashes open. Zhang and the professor are stunned to find Hoyan on the floor behind it. Then the professor sees the woman and, shocked, asks what she's doing in his office. She says she's doing what should have been done long ago, then presses delete. The computer announces that the deletion command is running. The vials in storage start bubbling. From the floor, the boy says she made it in time, while the professor screams as his life's work is ruined. He rushes at her, demanding to know if she even understands what those recordings were for. She says yes, and that's exactly why she's deleting the recordings. He keeps charging, shouting that they're needed for the future of humanity. She slams into him and yells back that no, they are not needed for our future. He snaps that humans are weak and will never survive. Grabbing a chair, he calls her an idiot who destroyed everything. Then he lifts it over his head and says she deserves to go down with the files she erased. Suddenly, a syringe is stabbed into the professor's neck. With a cold look, Zhong finishes injecting him with whatever was in it. The professor glances back over his shoulder. Zhong smiles and asks if there isn't any vaccine left over there. Then he pulls the needle from the man's neck. The professor screams, asking if Zhong understands what he's doing. Still smiling, Zhong says the professor should have saved that dose of the super vaccine made from personal combat data. He adds that he'll preserve it in his own body. The professor starts shaking and curses him through a trembling voice. Huiyan asks why Zhong made something like that, and Zhong says it was obvious. He wanted an army of his own, because a normal human can't survive alone. Huiyan replies that he's selling himself short. Zhong says Huiyan should understand, because some things never change, whether it's the old world or the new one. He goes on, the road to the future is the road of survival. The strong always feed on the weak. That's been true since the start of time. Only the way it happens has changed. The weak have always been fuel for the strong to rule the world. He says he's always had one goal, to win, whether that meant using Xiao before, or climbing over piles of bodies now. The professor asks if Zhong planned to alter the virus from the moment they first met. He says yes, and that thanks to Professor Ken's help, it became real. Huoyan says the volunteers were just stepping stones, just like Xiaoyu's brother. Zhong just smiles and asks why he shouldn't use the nutrients he raised himself. Huoyan answers that if that's true, then he can't blame the nutrients for fighting back. Then he throws out something like a small grenade. Zhong shuts his eyes and shouts, "Smoke grenade!" Annoyed, he says that's why he never liked Huoyan. He was always too smart. Then a hand grabs his foot. It's the professor, saying he'll never forgive Zhong. Zhong looks down at him coldly. He pulls out a gun, tells the professor to stop struggling and hurry up and become a zombie, then shoots him. Right after, Zhong says the professor once claimed he'd risk everything for science, and that he truly believed in his talent from the bottom of his heart. The professor lies on the floor, gritting his teeth in agony. Zhong smiles and says humanity will remember him forever after this. Then he declares that from now on, the show belongs to him. The professor keeps grinding his teeth and cursing. His body starts mutating, and he realizes he's about to die here. If he's going down, he's taking everyone with him. His scream echoes from inside the room. Oyen runs with the woman and says they got lucky those two turned on each other, otherwise they'd have been dragged in too. As they leave the building, he asks what they do now. She says they have to warn everyone at the camp, because Professor Can will soon become a monster. A man yells, asking what happened, and what they did in the lab, while Hoyun tells him to gather every weapon they have. The man looks lost and asks why they need weapons, and why Zhong would send everyone to meet God. She cuts him off, saying there's no time to explain and begging him to trust her. They need to leave right now. Hoyun thinks that the second the man gets distracted, he'll kill him. Suddenly, something leaps high into the air. A moment later, it slams down with huge force. Hoyun stops and realizes the monster is Professor Can. The camp erupts in panic when everyone sees the mutant zombie. One man draws a pistol and shouts, asking why nobody is firing at it. Then, the camp opens fire on the giant mutant zombie. The creature lets out a deafening scream. Then it rushes straight at the survivors. People cry for help, yell to turn on the ultraviolet lights, and scream for everyone to run. Ho Dian tells the professor they need to hide, but she tells him to wait. He snaps that if they wait any longer, they'll get dragged down too. She says she may know a way to send Professor Kan to have a little talk with God, and the boy asks what she means. In the next second, a bright nail-studded baseball bat slams onto the ground. Yenji remembers Kao telling her to trust him because he'd be right back. She also remembers him saying to protect herself while he was gone, so she wouldn't be beaten. Then she grips the bat in both hands. Yenji steps in front of the giant mutant zombie and gets ready to strike. The monster just stares at her. Then a huge crash hits, and dust bursts up. The survivors scream for everyone to run as fast as they can while rocks fly through the air. The little boy runs in tears, begging them to wait for him. As he runs, huge stones start falling toward him. The professor shouts and dives onto the boy, saving him from a falling rock. The boy recognizes her as Professor Xiaoyu. She asks if he can still run, and he says yes. Professor Xiaoyu tells him to stay strong and run to the garden where Uncle Hu is, while hoping Hodian is almost done. Then a vial of green liquid appears in someone's hand. Hodian remembers hiding the first stage antibody sample from Professor Kan in his dorm, and now he thinks it might stop the mutant zombie. The problem is figuring out how to inject it. Then the boy suddenly gets an idea, right as Yenji crashes on top of Hodian. He recognizes her at once. In the impact, he drops the capsule filled with green liquid. It rolls away as both of them hit the ground. The giant mutant zombie towers over them. It looks down at them like it's smiling. The boy scrambles to think. Every instinct tells him to run, but he glances at the green vial. Gritting his teeth, he thinks of Sao, forces himself forward, and screams as he runs. At once, the giant mutant zombie smashes down at him. Yenji moves first and shoves him aside, making the monster miss. The blow kicks up dust while the boy tumbles across the courtyard. He gets up and shouts for Yenji. Then he sees she grabbed the green vial and dodged the attack too. She pulls the cap off the capsule, revealing a needle. Hodian yells for her to throw the syringe into the zombie's mouth. She draws back to throw. Using all her strength and skill, Yenji hurls the needle toward the monster's mouth. It breaks through the creature's teeth and goes in. Yenji stands there again with that blank look and strange energy swirling around her. Hodian stares in shock. She actually didn't miss. The monster drops to its knees, and parts of its body start changing. Then a huge blast of smoke erupts. Yenji stands beside the boy, both of them watching for what comes next. When the smoke clears, a lump of flesh lies on the cracked concrete. The boy realizes the monster is finally down, and he never thought Professor Kan would turn into a zombie because of his own vaccine. All that's left of the professor comes into view. The boy calls to Yenji, saying the other survivors still need them, but something suddenly makes him turn around. In the next second, he's knocked to the ground. The pile of flesh starts forming again. What used to be the professor, then the giant mutant zombie, changes into something new. A metal blade stuck in the concrete stands out, with red cloth tied to the end. Then a hand grabs it. It's Yenji, still wearing that blank look. Across from her is a new monster, shaped like a huge red lion. Yenji and the beast lock eyes. Hers empty, its many eyes burning with rage. The monster charges and slams a punch down, but Yenji slides under it. She pops up with a sword in her other hand and cuts toward its back. Her strike blows through the monster's right knee, leaving a hole there. Still calm, she uses its back to launch herself higher. In midair, Yenji spins with her sword ready, but the lion-like beast lets out a huge roar. As it looks up, Yenji drops down and drives her sword into it again. Then she regains her balance. A bright light flashes near her face. She follows with a storm of lightning-fast strikes. The monster doesn't react, even while taking the full barrage. Then it shoots one paw forward, but Yenji reads it and dodges. Its giant arm crashes down next, and she barely gets her sword up to block. Her sword suddenly disappears, and surprise flickers in her eyes. The beast uses that opening and kicks her hard in the face. The blow sends Yenji flying. Even through the pain, she keeps one eye open and looks down as she's launched higher. In an instant, the beast appears beside her, ready to strike downward. It slams Yenji with all its strength. She crashes into the ground so hard it leaves a crater and shatters the concrete around her. The beast drops on top of her and looks down with a low growl. Then the mutant opens its mouth and slowly lowers its face toward Yenji. A pistol fires. The shot smacks the lion monster right on the snout. Nearby, Hoenn points the pistol at it and yells for the beast to look at him. The mutant clearly hates that and roars straight at Hoenn. A second later, it leaps over and punches the ground near him. Hoenn barely dodges as the hit blasts up dust. As he gets back up, Hoenn says he was always the one who chose survival first and relied on other people. He keeps running, aims the gun behind him, and shouts that this is all the beast's fault, all Sao's fault. With his face swollen, the boy gives a weak smile and says when he gets back, Shao better hold Hoenn's west. Just as the monster's claw swings at him, a huge impact hits, and a blinding flash wipes out the view. When it clears, Xiao Yu has kicked the lion's hand away. Hui just stares, shocked and confused. Then he realizes right away that it's Xiao Yu. The zombie beast is blasted backward by the zombie girl's kick. Kao walks over to Yunji and says she'll recover after eating that. Then he turns to the boy and asks if he's okay, and the boy says yes. He quickly explains that Zhang and his team were studying how to evolve the virus and cure it, and that the mutant was Professor Kan. Kao tells Huowen to take Yunji somewhere safe. Scared, Huowen says he wants to stay. The monster's too strong, and if Xiao Yu is alone, things could turn bad. Kao says that's exactly why he needs to leave. Right now, he adds, Huowen is the only one who can make sure everyone escapes. Huowen lowers his head and finally agrees, saying he understands. Kao looks at him and says not to worry. He's not going down. Huowen slowly backs away with Yunji. Kao adds that he still has other things to deal with. Then it becomes clear someone has been watching the whole fight from a building nearby. It's Dong, standing at a window and looking down on everything. Someone says they really don't get why all this formality matters as they stand in front of Sunny Shore City Medical University. A woman complains that the endless lessons on medical ethics are too much. They're medical students already, so they know this stuff. She keeps going, asking if they really needed a meeting that wasted the whole morning, and even an oath. A man agrees and asks Xiao Yuyi how that saying goes. Smiling, he says it's something about words having power, that saying them out loud helps people remember. And more than that, it gives them strength. Much later, a man calls out that the car's fuel tank has a huge hole, like somebody messed with it on purpose. She wonders if she'll make it out alive, realizing Zhang planned this from the start. Beside Yunji, Hoyan says they made so much noise that tons of zombies are probably already outside the camp, and they can't stay any longer. The survivors panic, wondering what to do. They don't want to die there, but that monster is still attacking everyone, so they ask the professor what they should do, go outside or hide. After a short pause, she says they should head to the experimental test area, since it was reinforced. Sometime later, they reach Warehouse 2. Ho Xiao looks ahead and asks the professor if this is the place. She says yes and tells everyone to keep moving. They'll be safe once they're inside. A mutant zombie appears and growls at them, but the professor orders everyone not to stop running. Yunji seems to know that zombie from the band around its head. Ho Yun then notices Yunji suddenly break away from the group. At the same time, the woman stumbles and starts to fall. Ho Yun rushes to help and tells her not to push herself, while thinking that if the zombie reaches the crowd, everyone is done for. Watching all this, the professor realizes she has to stop that monster somehow. She looks back and sees the entrance is right there. They only need to hold on for 3 more seconds. Shuyo thinks the vaccine research will have to start over, and she's the only one who fully understands the data. She can't afford a mistake now. She reaches out and grabs someone running past. Then she says she's sorry. Confused, the person looks at her and asks what she's doing. Shuyo clutches that person's clothes tightly. Then she shoves the woman toward the door and yells for everyone to keep running. After that, the professor runs straight at the mutant zombie. Eyes shut and teeth clenched, she charges in. Hoyen desperately screams her name. As she runs, she thinks about all the seniors who trusted her. She keeps going, believing she let every one of them down. But then she understands they would have made the same choice she is making now. She remembers her graduation and the oath she took that day. From that moment on, human life always came first for her. The monster opens its mouth and moves in to attack her. Then a white dove appears, also with its beak open. It flies through the dust. And it's not alone. More doves rise above her. They fly together higher into the sky, until they disappear from sight. Zhang starts clapping. He says the courage people show at the very end is amazing. Then he looks aside and asks if it isn't just like that. From behind a pillar, someone agrees and steps out of the shadows. It's Cao, cracking his neck as he mockingly calls Zhang his friend. Now Cao and Zhang stand face to face, staring each other down. Both look deadly serious, ready for what's coming next. Cao steadies himself, sets his fingers, and begins moving his hands with careful control. The pressure between them rises fast, making the moment feel almost unbearable. Losing patience, Cao lunges at his former friend with a fierce attack. Zhang reacts at once, pulls out a gun and aims it right at Xiao. Xiao spots the weapon immediately. He dives behind a pillar as bullets slam into it. Then Xiao rushes Zhang in a zigzag, while Zhang keeps missing his shots. Grinding his teeth, Zhang swings the gun to the side, but Xiao is quicker and slaps it out of his hand. The gun fires into the air as Xiao pulls back his other fist. Still focused, he steps in to finish the punch. His fist lands hard on Zhang's face. Zhang clearly didn't expect the hit to hurt that much, or even land at all. He tries to use the impact to reset his footing, and swings his leg around to answer with a kick. But Cao gives him no room, and smashes him in the face again. Cao stays stone-faced, fully locked in on what he came to do. Then he grabs Zhang's shirt. At last, Cao asks the question that's been haunting him. Why did Zhang do all this? Zhang says there are lots of reasons, but in the end, none of them matter. Cao asks if he's really fine with trampling people's lives and dignity. With a cruel smile, Zhang says he doesn't care about anyone else. Fury fills Cao's eyes as he says that's enough. Now he knows everything he needed to about his former friend. He throws Zhang down, draws his sword, and tells him to be a better person in the next life. Lifting the blade, Cao says goodbye to Zhang. Without any emotion or regret, he brings the sword down. Zhang has just enough time to react, and can only shut one eye as the blade falls. Then everything goes dark. Darkness breaks with a flash of lightning. In the rain, a giant fist crashes into a small one. Xiao Yu is still locked in battle with the huge beast. The beast throws a heavy attack. Xiao Yu blocks it, but the force hurls her to the ground. The monster jumps at her, its burning fist coming down to kill. Its punch smashes the ground and sets off a huge explosion. Even after that blast, the zombie girl stands at the center without a scratch. The beast roars in anger when it sees she survived. Now she goes on the attack, gathering power into her fist. Her punch drives into the creature's stomach. That energy rips through its body and bursts out its back. The zombie girl just stands in the rain, staring with cold, empty eyes. The creature drops to its knees, shaking as it tries not to fall. Barely able to breathe, it struggles to recover from the hit that shook it to the core. Nearby, several survivors lie unconscious on the ground. The monster fixes its mirrored eyes on something ahead, full of rage. Then the zombie girl jumps in front of that person, putting herself between them and the monster. Without slowing down, she rushes the wounded beast again for another straight attack. She moves in to protect them, then suddenly notices something dangerous flying at her, and everything goes quiet. A huge crash follows, and dust swallows the scene. Back with Zhang, he still has the sword and calls out to Cao. He mocks Cao, saying he couldn't beat him before and won't beat him now. Then he snaps off the tip of Cao's sword with his bare hand. With a dark look, Zhang warns his old friend not to look away. Dust starts rising, and Cao quickly leaps back. That's when he spots an empty syringe with a needle on the end. Zhang confirms it. That was the final result of his research. We also see Xu Yu backing off and recovering from the hit she took. Zhang tells his former friend that to live in this world, he has to become a predator that never stops evolving. Cao remembers talking with Ho Yan, explaining that they work as a team. He leads, and the two girls help him on missions together. He says they stayed alive by sharing what they had, and they'll probably keep doing that for a while. Then Cao asks Ho Yan to join them, because after this, he wants to do something bigger. Ho Yan just stares at Cao, eyes wide. Then, with a small smile, he says of course he'll help. Back in the present, Zhang punches Cao in the chest and sends him flying. He says Cao always lets his feelings control him, and if he'd killed him sooner, maybe he never would have used the vaccine. Cao gets back up and says beating Zhang in one hit would be far too easy for him. Zhang smirks and says Cao may have just wasted the last chance he'll ever get. Cao says he doesn't believe that, calling him stubborn. Zhang rushes in again. Cao charges too, now holding a metal rod, and their clash kicks up dust between the buildings. Then we cut to a gleaming gun. Ho Yan says he grabbed it to help Cao, but never thought things would end up like this. Zhang really turned himself into a mutant. He watches Cao being pushed onto the defensive in the fight. Ho Yan doubts the gun can kill Zhang, but maybe it can buy some time. The problem is, he only has one bullet, and once he gives away his spot, it's over for him. Cold sweat runs down Ho Yan's face as he lines up that one shot. His finger shakes on the trigger, and he can barely keep it steady. Zhang smiles, reaches out and says this is the end for Cao. He grabs Cao by the head and slams it into a wall. Cao feels both the pain and the terrifying power his mutated friend now has. At the same time, Ho Yan steadies his aim. He finally gets a perfect shot, but Zhang looks right at him that very second. Ho Yan freezes. Thinking he'd been found, he panics and fires anyway. The bullet tears toward Zhang at incredible speed. It hits, and Ho Yan blurts out that he got him. He drops the gun and runs, knowing his position is now blown. Then he glances back and only sees Cao on his knees. Zhang is gone. Confused, Ho Yan wonders where he went. Then, something suddenly punches through his torso. Still stunned, Ho Yan looks down at his own body. Zhang appears in front of him and asks if he was looking for him. He says a bullet was never going to stop him, though he's surprised it didn't even hurt. Ho Yan is left shocked, confused and furious. He pulls a grenade from his back pocket, yanks the pin, and yells that they're going to hell together. Then the arm holding the grenade goes flying through the air. Ho Yan stares at the severed limb in disbelief. Zhang stands in front of him with a hard expression. A second later, the grenade explodes nearby. Still on his knees, Cao cries out Ho Yan's name, before collapsing from weakness. Shaking, he tells himself he has to move. Then Zhang pulls his pointed tail out of Ho Yan's torso. He coldly says ambushing people is a bad idea, and asks Ho Yan if he agrees. In a weak voice, Ho Yan says if Zhang means he was being stupid, then sure, he's still inexperienced and has a lot to learn. Zhang says he'll teach him something. The tip of his tail opens into a tiny mouth, and he says he'll show him what it means to use everything. Then he drives the tail into Ho Yan's stomach again. Ho Yan screams, and Zhang wonders if he can control someone after turning him into a zombie. Yan Ji and Xiao Yu arrive, ready to face the mess in front of them. Noticing them, Zhang slowly turns and locks onto the new threat. Yan Ji swings a metal bar straight at him. With one quick move, Zhang catches the bar and stops her attack cold. He sneers and says Yan Ji is way too slow to be a real opponent. Then he strikes her arm, twisting it until it cracks. Even hurt, Yanji only lifts one eyebrow, almost emotionless. A moment later, she's thrown into Xiao Yu, her arm hanging loose and nearly ripped from her shoulder. The hit sends dust everywhere. Weak and hurting, Cao crawls toward Huoyan and calls his name. He begs him not to talk, says there has to be medicine that can save him, and tells the system to bring up the roulette, but Huoyan smiles and asks him to listen. He says Zhang framed him before the apocalypse, and he only understood that after he got fired. Back then, he was too scared of losing his job to warn the directors or reach out to Cao. He says he changed after the apocalypse, but when he saw Zhang again, he still couldn't bring himself to tell the truth. Huoyan admits that when they ran into Zhang, he wanted to beat him for what he did to Cao, and then run away because he was too ashamed to stay by his side. But when Cao talked about starting a new company, Huoyan changed his mind. He says it's because he truly missed the days when he could follow Cao. His vision fading, Huoyan smiles and says he really wants to build that new company with him. Then Huoyan closes his eyes, still wearing a peaceful smile. Cao grabs his arm and breaks down crying. He stays frozen, mouth open, staring at Huoyan's body in disbelief. A moment later, Cao knows for sure, Huoyan is gone. His hand lies still on the floor. Then it suddenly clenches tight, like something inside triggered it. Cao jerks back in shock, eyes wide and heart pounding. When he looks up, Huoyan is standing again, now as a zombie. A sharp sound behind Cao makes him spin around at once. Zhang orders zombie Huoyan to kill Cao without hesitation. Consumed by rage, Cao starts screaming curses at Zhang. Huoyan lunges at Cao with both arms raised. He throws blow after blow, but Cao keeps dodging, fully focused. Zhang smirks and asks Cao what the problem is. Why can't he fight back? As painful memories hit Cao, Zhang says that's exactly the face he wants to see, and tells his old friend to amuse him more. He goes on, saying if Cao won't defeat Huoyan, then Huoyan will defeat him. After backing away so long, Cao trips on a stone. He starts to fall just as zombie Huoyan lunges in with his mouth wide open. Cao shuts his eyes. Then something shoots out from a pile of supplies at terrifying speed. It's Xiao Yu. She gets there just in time and plants a hand on Huoyan's face, stopping the bite. Zhang looks at her and coldly calls her a nuisance. Then he puts 2 fingers in his mouth and whistles, and something slams down behind him. A giant bear-like monster lands at his back, and Zhang orders it to kill the zombie girl. The beast instantly jumps at her. The zombie girl grabs a U-shaped piece of metal and uses it like a weapon. She pins zombie Huoyan to the wall by the neck. In the next instant, the monster is already behind Xiao Yu. She turns to face it without fear. Before it can attack, Cao dives in with his sword and slashes the monster's huge hands. He yells that he already lost Huoyan and can't lose Xiao Yu too. The monster answers with its other paw, smashing Cao away. He bounces across the ground again and again before crashing into a wall. Cao ends up slumped there after the impact. At last he admits he can't move. The wall beside Cao suddenly bursts open when another body slams into it. It's Xiao Yu, and she's badly hurt. Nearby, Zhang stands there with his arms crossed. He tells Cao to look at his precious helpers now, like broken dolls. Smiling, Zhang mocks him, asking if he still values his employees most when Xiao Yu is about to be torn apart. He keeps taunting Cao, asking if he regrets losing control and not finishing him sooner. Then Zhang boasts that Cao was doomed to lose from the very start. Cao calls to Xiao Yu and tells her to take Yanji and get out. Instead, the system reports that Xiao Yu refused the order. Cao begs her not to throw her life away and just run. But the system says again that Xiao Yu declined his command. He asks if she always wanted a family, then tells her she can still find another one if she survives. When she still won't move, Cao shouts that she can live as long as she leaves him. Then, for the first time, the zombie girl speaks. She says only one word, no. Cao is shocked. He's never heard her talk before. She says it again, no. Taking a fighting stance, Xiao Yu adds one more word, desista, don't give up. Cao squints, and a bright flash fills his view. Suddenly, he sees himself standing outside the building where he used to live. A voice behind him says they finally found him, and Cao turns around. It's Xiao Yu, smiling brightly as she says she finally found her boss, Cao. She stops to think about what to say. Maybe he won't even remember her. After all, she was only an intern. Xiao Yu starts practicing all kinds of weird conversations, acting out both sides in her head. Watching her be so unsure and all over the place, Cao starts to laugh. She shuts her eyes and lets out a long breath, trying to calm down. At last, she picks a simple line. She heard the boss wasn't doing well, so she came to see him and hoped it might cheer him up. Xiao Yu goes on, saying that ever since she ran away from home, she's wondered if she made the right choice and never knew where she truly belonged. She says she really hopes he can smile again and keep moving forward, still believing in what he stood for. In the memory, Xiao Yu smiles at him softly, then shakes her head, embarrassed that she said all that out loud. She tells herself to keep practicing until she talks to a real person. A moment later, Xiao Yu asks someone passing by how to get to apartment 33. When the old man doesn't answer, she calls to him again, He slowly turns, and his face reveals he's a zombie. That was the moment Xiao Yu became the zombie girl. Now Cao understands why Xiao Yu appeared near his house. He glances at her and says, "Until the end." Surrounded by light, Xiao Yu answers, "That's why you need to cheer up." Then she reaches her hand toward him. Still smiling, she calls him boss and holds her hand out. The system announces that Xiao Yu has been promoted to elite staff. Glowing with golden light, Xiao Yu reaches for Cao and tells him to cheer up. Smiling back, Cao takes her hand and answers yes. Their hands meet, sealing their bond without a word. Xiao Yu pulls him up, still glowing, and the system announces a new update. The bond function is unlocked. As the monster jumps at them, another notice says that while Cao is on the field, her attack and defense increase, and she gains a new skill. Together they dodge easily, and the monster crashes into the ground. It glares at them and gets ready to attack again. Still smiling, Xiao Yu gets ready to fight. Dust rises between the pillars as the battle keeps going. Then Zhang jumps in from behind Cao, trying to catch him off guard. But Cao only glances back, completely calm. Zhang throws a wild attack, but Cao is already gone. Zhang freezes, confused. A second ago, he was right there. Then he sees Cao already rescuing Yanji from the rubble and holding her in his arms. Staring in shock, Zhang asks what kind of speed that was and mutters that Cao is impossible. Xiao realizes this new state feels nothing like the old teamwork mode. It's warm and he can clearly feel Xiao Yu's presence. Meanwhile, Xiao Yu fights the monster with ease, slipping past every brutal swing. No matter how hard the beast attacks, she dodges every hit. Grinning, the zombie girl says the monster is too slow. Zhang watches in disbelief. Just moments ago, Cao was barely able to move. Then it hits him. He's shaking. He looks at Cao, calmly feeding Yanji while leaning on a pillar, and wonders if he's actually scared of him. That thought makes Zhang grit his teeth in rage. He screams for Cao to be killed right now. The monster instantly turns from Xiao Yu and charges at Cao, but Xiao Yu notices at once. Cao tells Yanji to stay put and not worry. She'll feel better soon, even as the monster comes up from behind. He calmly adds that he and Xiao Yu will handle the rest while the monster rushes closer. Then Xiao Yu kicks off the ground so fast that dust bursts up around her. In an instant, she places herself between the monster and her boss. Cao orders her to activate Violent War God, Heavy Slash, and Immortality, and Xiao Yu confirms. The system shows that all three of Xiao Yu's skills are now active at once. Wrapped in a huge golden aura, Xiao Yu prepares to hit the beast. Energy bursts from 6 points on her back, forming wings in front. The system explains that level 1 immortality makes her completely immune to all damage for 60 seconds, with a 240-hour cooldown. Zhang stares in fear as the shockwave from Xiao Yu's power sends stones flying around him. He quickly turns and starts running, saying he can't believe this is happening. To himself, Zhang wonders how they suddenly got this strong, and even worse, stronger together. Then Tao suddenly appears beside him and calls out. He asks if Zhang is scared now, and Zhang turns toward him covered in cold sweat. Tao strikes fast, blasting Zhang backward and tearing off his arm. Even Tao is surprised, then says that's fine. Zhang owed that arm to Ho Yun anyway. Using that moment, Zhang runs, saying he needs to escape and make a better plan. As he flees, Tao calls out for Xiao Yu. Still glowing gold, Xiao Yu appears right in front of Zhang and startles him. Before he can react, she kicks him straight in the face and sends him flying. Zhang crashes down hard in the distance. A moment later, he's left sprawled on the floor. He slowly tries to rise, his whole body aching. Only then does Zhang notice the beast's lifeless face lying beside him. Grinding his teeth, he keeps muttering Tao's name with pure hate. Then he starts repeating no again and again. Before he can react, Tao is above him with sword in hand, saying it's over. But just before the final strike, Tao senses something. In desperation, Zhang starts eating the beast's corpse beside him, screaming that Tao is the one person he refuses to lose to. That's where this part ends. If you don't want to miss the next one, turn on the notification bell, and see you next time on this YouTube channel.